All right, so we're live. We're live here
All right.
with a vegan pundit because there's like an exclamation mark there, so it's like vegan pundit.
Yeah, because veganism is so exciting and interesting.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, you may recognize him from all the live chats. He's always raising his hands and you know
Yep.
making his presence known.
Kind of expressing myself through emojis.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So how are you, Richard? How are you today? Are
Well,
you
I'm doing
feeling?
really nice. Went for a walk earlier today. It's a gorgeous day here in Seattle. Went and got some bananas and some seaweed snacks. So it's all fine and well.
Ah, nice. Right, you're in Seattle. So how's the rain?
Well, it actually rained the other day, which was a welcome relief because it's been a little bit hot here for the time of year. But for the past couple of days, it's been in the mid 70s or so, fairly nice. Maybe low 80s, but it's been a lot nicer. Yeah, it's nice.
Right. Oh, look, Vegan for Kindness is here. Well, Carrie is here as well.
Oh,
Vegan
very good.
Bohemian. Cameron. Right.
So
Yeah.
if anybody has any questions, will we be addressing them as well, or if they want to add to any of the points that we're talking about through the chat?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they have
Okay,
questions, yeah.
because
Or
I can't see the chat.
you want to see the chat? I think I can make
I
it.
would like to, yeah, actually, to see what people have to say and any
Let
snack
me
they want to throw
see.
down.
Because I really don't know how to work this thing. I let you know this is because this is from StreamYard and I have no idea what I'm doing. So
This is the first use of my new computer and these headphones, and so I'm kind of a little challenged in that regard as well.
so I have no idea how to. I think there was an option, but like uh, I don't know. There's even like background music in this thing. What I don't know.
Hmm.
But there's like
Okay, well, I'll trust you to pass on any comments or
yeah,
queries people
no,
may
but
may have.
yeah, right now we're gonna have to do it this way. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but yeah,
All right,
you should be able to change something and your end to see the chat. Says vegan for kindness.
is he
All
talking to
right,
me?
I guess so. So you're talking about Richard. He can see the chat if he changes the settings stuff.
Go into settings.
Uh, I don't know. He says that you should be able to change something on your end, but the problem is like, let me see more.
I'm afraid to click on anything. It might kill my
Yeah, exactly. Let me see. Guests. Aha, aha. Aquí, let me see. Guests can stream. Guests see viewer comments and post. Okay.
Oh, okay. What's going on over here?
Okay, you can see the comments now?
Let me click yes, actually. Yeah, awesome.
Aha, nice, nice.
Oh, Angelo, nice. Hello.
Hey, Angelo. Angelo has arrived. Awesome. Technology
Yeah, I
is
love.
not my friend. Don't ask me, says Carrie. Nice.
Yep, same here. Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
Angelo
I mean,
did a really good job presenting his arguments to a reasonable vegan regarding the definition of veganism. I thought that was a great series of videos that he did.
Angelo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I saw some of it, but the thing is that I'm like I'm maxed out on the Carson. My Carsonic levels are way too high, and I'm like, no, I need to not consume any more Carson right now.
Yeah,
But
I've been
I
kind of
want
in
to see
that.
him because he challenged these guys, Grumpy Vegan Granddad and vegan of course, Sky Jack Morgan. So they're going to have a little debate with him also
Mm.
soon. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I saw
we'll
that.
see about that. My Carson
Yeah, I
level is
saw.
pretty high too, says Angela.
Well, I
Oh
thought he
man,
presented his case and he probably finished all that needed to be said in that regard. I mean, yeah, I thought it was
awesome.
great. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see Sky and a grumpy vegan granddad kind of put
Right,
Carson on the spot there. I mean, Louis Ghetto's done a great job. Jeremy
good.
Gord has done a great job. Angela's done a great job, and he just seems fairly entrenched in his paradigm, which is fine. Whatever.
Right. No, no. The thing, I went there 2 times, and I think I was just not. I don't know. I didn't bring my A game because the thing is, I'm not used to this thing and these debates and these streamings and stuff. It's all of this is alien to me. It's like a new thing. So I completely out of my comfort zone. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I'm hosting like a
Yeah.
talk show or something. What I'm doing, I don't know. But okay, so let's get into topic. We were going to
All right.
discuss the yeah, about the vegan society, like the initial intentions of the founders, like what's really at the core of the vegan society. What are, like what's the message really out there? You know, from Leslie Cross, Donald Watson, all those founding fathers of veganism, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget some of the founding women as well.
Mm-hmm.
Eva Bat. There's quite a handful of them that actually put out a lot of
Right,
input and a lot of say so in what was going on, and they had fabulous input.
right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I did get to see what the thing you recommended with Andy, the
Yeah,
narration.
not your mom, not your milk. Yeah, his
Yeah, yeah,
narrations are great.
correct. Yeah, that narration with the all the essays from Leslie Cross. It was really interesting. It was like I was surprised to see certain things there because I was completely like blown away. Like back in the day, they were already thinking about these replacement products for milk and for other things. I was like, what the heck? This is some like Back to the Future thing. Like, what is this? Like,
I think
that's
those.
crazy.
I think that milk is still available. The plant milk. I think that
Plan
brand
milk.
is still available. Yeah, I think it's still available.
Yeah, I read that they are still that company still exists, but I think it's no longer at the location. I think it's
Yeah.
no longer at the initial location, but they do exist, Plamil, and I'm like, what the heck? Even back then, they were doing this thing. That's absolutely crazy. That really blew me away. I was like, what? And they were talking about not only milk but other replacement products for meat and other stuff. And I was like, what is this? This is some
Yeah.
future stuff. It's
It was. It
amazing,
was.
and we have this right now, and we're thinking that this is like a brand new idea and brand new products and stuff. Turns out they were already thinking that back in the day, which is absolutely mind blowing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they understood that the commercialized end of it had to be covered for people to make it easy for people and to like make it something you could do just by going to the store as anybody else and not have to like make everything yourself and like make special arrangements or anything. So they were really forward thinking. I mean, they're some of the things that I've studied just recently and really gotten into their history. It's really quite amazing. Um, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, V Jokic is also in the house. V Jokic. Weren't you all you weren't you B Jokic but with the other B before? I don't know. I remember B Jokic. This it's now B Jokic with the other the the other B. I don't know. I don't know how you call that in English, but
Yeah, it
but
sounds
yeah,
it sounds like Slavic or Eastern European.
yeah,
V
yeah.
Jockey.
B
I don't know
Jokic,
how to say that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. So yeah, so
Okay.
these products and these things is crazy to me that they were thinking about all of that back then. But yeah, the commercial aspect, it's something that I've always said and I've always defended that yeah, we do need these things. I mean, it's not that they're needed exactly because we don't really need like beyond burgers or impossible patties or whatever. It's not that we need it. No one actually needs it. But as long as these companies, instead of making cows into burgers, make plants into burgers, what's the problem? Like the thing we want is for animals not to be slaves anymore. And if these things can help in any way, so be it. Welcome. I have no problem with them. But I know a guy who is absolutely against them. He's from Spain, and I'm gonna have him here. But I mean, he told me he spent a year at an English speaking country. He didn't specify which one, but he told me that he lived there and he knows English, but he has to prepare for that chat. But he's completely against all of those products. He says that they're a scam, and he has some good points about it. And I wanted to bring awareness to this thing because we do need to be aware of the tactics of the meat industry because those guys are not gonna just go away like, oh well,
No.
goodbye. Yeah,
Yeah.
vegans, you
Yeah.
won. Cows are
Yeah.
free.
Unless there's something to satisfy their shareholders, they will not just lay down. I mean, that's against the bylaws of the being incorporated. You have to try to maximize profits for your shareholders legally. So they're not just going to be like, oh well, we lost, blah blah blah. They're gonna have to make their own products to replace them. And as far as somebody calling them a scam, I'm not even really. They would have to unpack what they mean by that term. Like
Right,
they're real products. How are they a scam? I don't know.
right,
Maybe the
exactly.
advertising is a scam, but advertising is always kind of a scam, right?
I mean, right. Like for example, here, I don't know if you've seen these articles, but to me, they jump out all the time that Beyond Burger is being sued by this group of people because they say they had 20 grams of protein and they have, I don't know, 18.5. Oh no, they lied to me. Add me to the suit. And I was like, what the freak? Like, are you really? Are you for real doing this? And it's like, no, Beyond Meat is failing and Impossible is crashing and this thing is going away. I'm like, man alive, like really, like the campaign against all of this is comes from everywhere. So for me, when I see vegans also against it, I'm like, dudes, you have to understand we're fighting a behemoth here that has all the resources, all the marketing, everything. They have such a powerhouse that we can't do anything like against them. So we have these companies trying to do this plant thing. Whatever, let them be. Why are you against it? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I
the
just saw
problem,
a
the scam is that some people are thinking that because these companies exist, but that's just people's perception. Like this, oh, more of these options. That means that we're killing fewer animals and stuff, and it's the contrary is happening. And some of these companies are being bought out by these meat giants and dairy giants and stuff. So we have to be aware that these companies are, dipping their toes in this thing also, and trying to get a hold of it. And I know that's just a strategy to to sabotage the thing. Who knows? Or maybe make it. I don't know. It could be a strategy. We'll have to be aware of all these things. So he's trying to bring awareness to these possible threats, and I think it's interesting. I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's
yeah,
good because a lot of times a larger corporation will buy out a competitor just to kill the brand or whatever, and they may milk it for a little while, and that's all fine and well. But eventually, they might want to kill it, or if there's some sort of negative public perception about the product, they'll take it off the shelf and just kind of hold on to the name brand, but not really make any products. I don't know. That could be a strategy for sure. But remember, at the bottom, at the end of the day, those companies they're legally bound to make maximize profits for their shareholders. So in a
right,
way, it's even kind of ridiculous to lay it at the feet of the company being ultimately responsible. It's actually the responsibility of the shareholders, especially the primary shareholders, to try to dictate what the policies should be, and they could put pressure on them in that regard. But most shareholders, I'm sure, have pretty selfish um, motivations for the things they do, of course.
right, exactly. Let me see
Yeah.
what are they saying right now. How come no one complains about Easter eggs appropriating eggs? Yeah, exactly. What the heck is this Easter eggs? Oh man, that's the other thing. When you go vegan, you see so much idiocy all over the place. You're like, what is this dumb thing? Why is this a thing? Like, what is this egg? What is this?
Yeah.
That's crazy. But something funny happened to me at work. I had this workmate who is from Cuba, and he was here. I mean, he arrived like just like recently or something, just a few months ago. And when Easter time came, uh, he saw at a Walmart, he saw that they had these a bunch of bunnies and eggs and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, they replaced all the toys with bunnies and eggs. What is this thing?" I had to explain Easter to him, like, "Dude, this is some crazy Easter thing. I don't know." They hide these eggs in the backyard, and kids go to find them. I don't know. This is dumb.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an obvious ploy where they start to complain about things being labeled as milk and things like this, but
Yeah,
they don't complain about peanut butter or these Easter eggs that aren't really eggs. And I mean,
right.
it's just ridiculous. It's just a pathetic. They're grasping. They see their empires being kind of chipped away at, and just their ideology being chipped away at, and they're just getting desperate and just doing anything they can.
Right, exactly. Which, by the way, I saw this meme with like the steak that says something like ingredients, beef, and then the other one, the Impossible says a bunch of ingredients and stuff. But you can reverse it and say, I mean, sugar, we know sugar, refined sugar is like terrible for everyone's health, wherever, like the consumption of it is like, you know, so you can say, okay, so ingredients, sugar, it's still terribly malign, So it's not just because it's one ingredient or fewer ingredients means that it's better or something like that. But we all know the appeal to nature thing, like, oh no, this thing is natural, so it's better, or this thing is a bunch of chemicals. I mean, sure, but then it's like everything has something. Apples have like cyanide and stuff. So what are you gonna do? Rice has arsenic. So what are you gonna not eat rice anymore? Like, it's just the levels of it not are not going to do anything to you really. It's just such a low level that you'd have to consume copious amounts of it to even be at risk of something. So I don't know.
Yeah, and just like Sky pointed out in the show the other day, I mean, there's a lot of things that are in meat that aren't listed as an ingredient, but are there just through the way that they've been produced and other things. It's not just this animal flesh that you're buying. There's chemicals that are there, whether they were intentional or not. Lots of sodium sometimes is pumped into chickens, for instance. There's other things in those products that aren't necessarily listed. So if you think you're getting some sort of a pure animal product, remember chemicals as they come up through the biosystems or whatever you want to say accumulate in the upper, the higher tier animals.
Right.
So a lot of those animals have a lot of things contained within their fat and their meat that are not so possibly good for your long-term health, but they don't have to list them legally.
Right, exactly. That's the thing, right? They don't have to list all those ingredients. So they don't. So people think, oh, this is just some chicken breast or whatever. And
Yeah,
because it looks like shiny and pink and whatever, they think, oh, this is just some chicken breast, it's natural, whatever, this is good. And no, it's been pumped full of chemicals and stuff, like the nitrates and stuff like that. And I saw one video, it was PewDiePie reacting to how they make bacon, was it?
yeah,
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah,
bacon. And then the thing was that I was like completely like, what the heck is this? Like they douse these things in a bunch of chemical stuff and flavors and stuff. So it gets to you like sausages or steaks or whatever it is. It gets to you already with a bunch of infused flavors and stuff. And so it's like, okay, so you don't even know how the actual animal tastes. You have it's like even a steak with no further condiment or whatever that you put into it, it's like it already comes with like some artificial thing in it, so the taste
yeah.
is not going to be the actual taste of the animal, so you don't even know how the animal tastes, and you say, oh no, I love the how meat tastes. You don't. It's just a fabrication, and it's not
Yeah.
natural. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how this fallacy, this appeal to nature fallacy, has really kind of been on the cutting edge of all these complaints. And I don't know if people are really thinking about it or if they're just kind of parroting what they've heard or just, kind of without much introspection, just saying, oh, but it's not natural, not realizing really what that all entails. But I think that's
Right.
going to be one of the biggest threats to any of these sorts of lab grown meats or these cultured meats or, whatever is going to be this appeal to nature is going to become much more popular, I think, is a big intellectual pushback against
Right.
raising animals as opposed to the more, benign, factory produced stuff that comes out of a lab or whatever you want to call it, cultured meat.
Yeah, well, the thing, yeah, culture meat. That's another topic altogether. I think. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. People, they're just like, oh no, this thing is natural. This thing is not. Yeah, but then you do a bunch of unnatural things.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
not really that it's natural while you're consuming this, because no one goes to, like, when people say, "Oh no, it's that it's not healthy. The Beyond is not healthy." Yeah, I don't see you at the McDonald's drive-through for health. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's looking at their B12 levels from a bacon McDouble.
Oh
That's
yeah. I
that's
mean,
no. I
yeah.
mean, I'm sorry, that's not the issues here. So say something else, because that's not it. That can't be it, because the drive-through at McDonald's is always full. There's
I
always
mean,
like
those
a
are,
million cars there. So you tell me that all
yep.
those people are health conscious? I don't think so.
No. I mean, these are the tricks that the ego pulls out to try to protect itself in regards, when it's challenged. They don't have to make much sense, and most people don't give it much thought what they're saying. But yeah, it's just
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
right. So back to the vegan society and the intentions and all that. So yeah, these founders, I mean, they had it so clear, back then. I mean, I actually when I was really emotional, well, hearing like the narration and stuff, because I'm like, this was so clear back then. How did this idea not catch on? What happened? Where did we go
Well,
wrong, really? Like, what happened? Because this was like when they came up with this vegan society thing, where like Casablanca had just gone out in the cinema or whatever. Like it was like the newest thing. Like I don't know, like 1940 something like that. It's like what the heck? And how did this not catch on? Like what happened that we derailed so far from this thing? And the opposite of what they wanted happened, because
yeah.
in 1943, I don't think there was a McDonald's or anything like that. And then we have a
No.
world with Pizza Hut, McDonald's, Domino's, Popeyes, you name it. And it's completely the complete opposite of what these guys envisioned. Well, guys and ladies, of course, envisioned. And we have a complete we have it the complete backwards, like it's the opposite happened. People are now eating more animals, enslaving more animals, doing much more harm than ever before. If they saw what we're doing today, what would they think, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this has to do with the historical context when the movement first came about. Like, there were no factory farms, there wasn't much about environmental degradation, there wasn't all these things, concerns about the health of it. None of these things were really an issue back in the 1940s, 50s, even into the 60s is when these things started to really become more studied and apparent, the effects of these long-term things. So I don't think that they did a lot of like outreach until even into the 70s and 80s, I believe. It was more of just like, well, here's something if you want to join up and do it, but they didn't go out and do a lot of outreach. They had some TV shows and some kind of funny, documentaries about the movement, but they didn't really try to educate many people outside of people coming to them with an interest or through the Vegetarian Society. So I
Right.
think of veganism would have came out even much later when we see more of the degradation in the way the animals are treated and the effects on all these other systems. I think it actually might have been taken on, much quicker. Actually,
Probably. And also, yeah, there's the I'm sorry, there's that other thing, right? Because by I mean the 1940s, 1950s, the media wasn't what it is today, like in the slightest. Like right now, we can communicate about these things and see this footage of all the slaughterhouses and all that. But back then, well, there wasn't all that factory farming that there is now, and the ways, the means of communication weren't so readily available. It wasn't so widespread. So whatever they thought, they could write about it and publish it and stuff, but not much more. I think even TV wasn't really that much of a thing back in the 40s. And even if it did catch on in the 50s, but it was way too in its infancy, I guess. Television and radio, I guess radio was more of a thing. And and the written press, of course, as always. But I don't know, the way to reach out to everyone around the globe, hey, stop doing this horrible thing. Let's, focus on this other thing. Let's eat, plants or whatever, and let's not harm animals. How do you bring that message to everyone in that era? I don't know. It was I don't know. So probably that's why they went with this idea of making it like, hey, some club that you can join, and you see if
yeah.
you join as a partial member or full member, and hey, let's join in and have some non butter crackers or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's much more difficult. And plus, we have to remember that they had a lot of financial difficulties at the very beginning for many years. Like they couldn't afford to print out, 10,000 leaflets or flyers and post them. And where would they get the list of people to post them to? Like, I'm not even sure how any of that worked back in the 40s and 50s, but it certainly would have been much harder to outreach for people unless they came to you first with a curiosity about what was going on. And they found that probably through magazines. But what magazines? You'd have to be vegetarian or something already to be looking at those magazines. So yeah, it's much more difficult to spread the word. And as you're saying, the impetus wasn't as powerful because there was no factory farming. Farming was still, and it still is really considered kind of like this benign sort of friendly things that people do in part of your culture or whatever. And of course, the
Right.
environment. the environmental degradation was certainly happening, but not to the scale and not with the ramifications that we see today.
Right, exactly, exactly. And then today there's other obstacles, like for example, people with their crazy theories about everything is a conspiracy, everything is they're trying to take away your freedom, and they're trying to take away your meat, and they want you to eat bugs, and Bill Gates is trying to
Yeah,
control you with a microchip. It's like, really, like, and
yeah.
they want me to remain calm and collect and stuff. I'm sorry, I see those things, it's ridiculous. It's like, ah, I can't. It's too ridiculous. It's like, dude, just understand that these animals are individuals. That's it. No one's trying to get you to eat bugs or keep you away from your steaks. They're not your steaks, they're chunks of flesh from someone else.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, uh,
I think a lot of
yeah,
this is they're taking a playbook out of the the tobacco industry's thing, where as long as you can create some sort of a doubt and keep people on the fence and just kind of promote these other ideas that have really no basis, or very sketchy proofs, as long as you can keep people on the fence, they're just going to naturally kind of fall back to their habits and what they've been doing because it's more comfortable, it's more readily accepted. That's just they're taking a page out of that playbook, and unfortunately, there's a lot on the line. There's a lot on the line, and I don't think that they're understanding that, or why somebody would feel that all the evidence that's been brought forth, they don't even want to take like the precautionary principle and go, okay, so our camp is saying that these things are not happening, the other camp is saying that they are. Well, let's step back and actually find out the truth about it, and figure out what's going on before we just charge forward. I don't understand this idea that we can't have adopt the precautionary principle and get some studies done to actually satisfy the proofs that these other people want. It's like there was so many studies by all these different schools and things that are pretty highly regarded. And like you said, it always boils down to, well, it's a conspiracy. Well, Bill Gates is in charge. Well, the fucking earth is flat. It's like, come on. We're all in this together. You're going to take us over the edge. They're saying don't shove it down our throats. Look what you're shoving down everybody else's throats. Look what you're shoving down all the animals' throats. You're taking us all down over the edge, possibly with you. So the same goes to them.
right. That's the thing, and it's like this this thing is like I was saying in the beginning. It's like they have so much power, like these meat industries and stuff, and they have all the media on their side because they can just control the media, whatever. They control the narrative, they control this thing, and they're trying to. I mean, yeah, they kind of modified some of their things to try to appease certain consumers and stuff, but it's just putting a label on stuff like, oh, free range chicken. Oh wow, what does that mean? So are you basically admitting that you weren't treating the chickens right in the first place? Are you admitting
Yeah,
that you were doing something horrible to them by saying now, no, this is grass fed, or this is free range, or this is cage free? You're telling me that you had these animals in cages, you had them in these horrible conditions in the first place, and you didn't tell me about this because they weren't going to tell me about it like by themselves. Like Bordens is not going to tell you what they do with the cows, and
no,
Fairlife isn't going to tell you what they do. The Laughing Cow is not going to tell you what they actually do. So if they put that in the packaging, and they say, hey, look, Bluebell, the girl with the cow, like taking the cow on a stroll or something, that like that's the logo, and it's so ridiculous. Like they have these animals as their logos, and it's like, what the heck? You're kind of showing the views, but at the same time making it seem like this pretty thing. Like, oh look how cute this girl with the cow, and it's like, what is this? And it's that's deceiving. The laughing
yeah,
cow should get is the one that should get sued for false advertising because where's the laughing cow? Show me the laughing cow. Where
yeah.
is it really?
Yeah, every time I drive down, I'm driving down the road and I see one of those big milk, transport trucks, and they got the picture of the smiling cow in the back. Seems like it's all happy and fine and well. It's giving milk. It's like, well, let's take a look at the rape and all those sorts of things that go into this product. And those cows aren't pensioned off to the clover fields, right?
Right.
They're killed. They're killed. It's not like they live out their lives. They're just exploited. and then they're murdered. I mean, you want to call it whatever you want. They're slaughtered. You want to use these euphemisms. That's the truth of it. It's horrible. And people, just enforces their psychological, defenses. Oh, the cows are happy. They just see it and they just kind of nod their head and like, oh yeah, it makes me feel good about it. If they knew the truth, yeah, I mean, I think a good percentage of people would be pretty sickened by it if they just took the time to actually step back and look at what's actually happening.
Right. I mean, it's like, I don't know, man. It's perverse, really. Like they really make you believe that, yeah, no, the laughing cow or whatever and stuff, and it's everywhere. Because the other thing that people say is like, oh, that doesn't happen in my country, or that doesn't happen. That's just the gringo countries. They're the ones who do those things. In my country, that doesn't happen. Let me tell you
Yeah.
something. I come from a third world country, and animals there are less than a lamb. Really, they are nothing to people. No, absolutely nothing. Like, they don't mean anything, really. They're just some supper or some breakfast or whatever. They're nothing. And the things they do to those animals, especially in rural places where there's no factory farming, might be even worse. They may have fewer victims, but what they do is way, way more horrible to each victim than the factory thing, where it's so processed and so quick and stuff, that it may not be. I mean, it's still horrifying, and they still suffer a lot, but the process at a rural place with fewer resources, and everything is more like, the instruments are more like less sharp, and maybe, rust or something, and it's horrible. It's like, no. So no, they're not going to tell me that this doesn't happen. Oh no, this doesn't happen in my country or something. No, it does happen. It's the same thing, because in Venezuela we had a meat industry, a dairy industry, that it was produced in our country. We didn't import any cows or anything like that. We produced these things, and it was one of our pillars of the economy, or whatever you want to call it. And we had these ginormous industries in Venezuela with like milk and butters and stuff that were Venezuelan brands. And they had these, yeah, even this musician guy, a famous Venezuelan musician, was doing the adverts for this milk. And I'm like, bloody hell, they have this guy who's beloved by everyone in the country, and singing about this milk, this powdered milk, whatever, and making it seem like these wholesome products from the fields and stuff. And it's like, it's perverse. It's really perverse.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I hate to say this, but they're smart. These people who have all these ad campaigns and things, they've studied the psychology behind this, and they know, like a lot of religious people have kind of do this as well. Like if you can get people at a young enough age and start to get those grooves within your neural pathways to be a certain way, that's just the way the brain works. It just automatically your thought processes go down the path of least resistance, and these things just kind of come out of your mouth. You know what I mean? This is like like I said before, I think on Carson's show or somebody else's show, is like this is a psychological warfare. You know what I mean? And
No, exactly.
we're coming into it late. Like we're trying to deal with people's habits that have been developed over years and years and years of just being enforced. Like somebody just said in the chat there, like we need something drastic. Like how can we wake people up in mass? Like what sort of an action can take place? I mean, that's why things like what Tash Peterson does, and people that have gone on hunger strikes and actually passed away from them, in
Oh.
advocating for animals and advocating for like, hey, you said you promised you were going to enact policies on the political level, and then you don't, and then
Mm-hmm.
they sacrifice their lives for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what more drastic action needs to happen? What what can we do?
Right.
I don't know. I don't
It's
know.
like,
It's tough.
yeah. Right. So let me see some comments. Well, you can see them as well. Oh yeah, animals are here with us, not Forest is here. Add some comments. Gary says people suck so bad. Yeah, they do. And
Some.
most of the cows in my backyard are scared and afraid. Yeah, no wonder, of course. What I want to say, what I want to say that I want to do will get the police at my door. Uy. Yeah, I mean, if I said what I actually want to say about this whole animal thing, man alive. Yeah, I would have a SWAT team here. Let me see. Let me see. Imagine trying to save a life and getting arrested for it. Exactly, that's the thing. They get arrested, they get killed, they get maimed. It's terrible. like that. I admire Tash Peterson for what she does. Really, she's freaking amazing. She's putting her life at risk. She's putting her physical integrity at risk, and she's like this young lady who could just be, living it up, partying all the time or whatever, but she's dedicating herself to this cause, and it's a cause that it she's not going to get like a medal or anything from the animals, because the animals are not even aware that any of this is happening, right? That we're trying to save them from our own selves, basically.
Yeah,
So they don't even know. So it's a thankless occupation, but we do this for them. It's like we see this horrible injustice and we want it to stop. And Tash Pearson is just doing such an amazing thing. Is I don't know. She really goes above and beyond. Really, I don't know. I haven't seen that in a long while, because it used to be that was like the more common thing, right? Like the disruptions, the direct action, this thing with, go yelling at people on the street and stuff. And it's been transformed into this earthling ed kind of sit down and talking to people. And that's the most common thing now, I guess. There's still like the AV guys doing the what do they call it? The cube of truth and stuff like
cube of
that.
truth.
That's
Yeah,
still going, yeah. And
yeah,
but it's like it's more of a, hey, let's sit down and talk about these things, which is also okay, because many people are really not aware of any of these. They have absolutely no idea, and even the ones who think they know, they really don't know. That's something I try to tell people, that listen to me. You think you know what happens to animals at the farms and the slaughterhouses. You don't know. Trust me. Because the
yeah.
level of evil that these things, like, it's, you can't imagine it. Like, my mind couldn't actually imagine, like, the life shackling, for example. That's something that I could not picture for myself. Like, oh yeah, that's how they kill chickens or something. It's so horrible that I'm like, who comes up with this stuff, really? But how else did we think they were doing this? With billions and billions of animals, of course they're going to do some assembly line of horrors to these animals, right? So it's like, bloody hell, it's horrible. And people have
Yeah.
really no idea. No idea.
It's interesting. I saw a thing recently where they were talking about using getting people. And they referenced the chicken industry in particular. Is instead of having so many workers there at the site doing it, is what you could do is you could work from home using VR goggles through a robotic interface to slaughter and run the machinery. Yeah, I thought like sure that might help the slaughter workers maybe in their PITS or PTSD symptoms or whatever, but
Whoa.
that's still it's dehumanizing the thing even more. It's making it even worse for the animals because it's just like it's totally divorcing a human perception of what's even going on at the level of the production. It's just like these robots being controlled by humans just going to slaughter all these animals. I thought it was just horrific. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's basically Ender's Game, but with slaughterhouses.
Yeah,
Like, oh no, you're
exactly.
just playing some game, some VR game, and it turns
Yeah,
out that no, you're killing actual beings, and they're playing with you. They have you playing with this thing, but really you're a mass murderer. Like, how do you deal? That's how they did with well, even in war, like they came up with these distance missiles and stuff, and that you can just from a computer, from a with a monitor and stuff, just press a button and blow up some place somewhere really far away, and it's the same thing. You're just seeing a monitor and you're thinking, oh, this is just some game or whatever. Easier than just to be there and actually shoot at someone, face to face. I think they
oh yeah,
actually found in most battles and wars and stuff that when they confronted like two groups and they had to fire like a musket or something, they found that most of the soldiers just loaded their guns, but they were loaded, they didn't really fire them, because it's not the same thing like firing at another human being. Even if they're supposed to be your enemy or whatever it is, you don't really want to kill anyone, really. You don't want to do these things. So most of them, very young people going to this unnecessary horrible thing, they didn't even fire their guns, because most of them, because they were too afraid to even do anything like that. They didn't want any part of it. But you know what? And the
yeah.
same thing is in
I think
slaughterhouses.
yeah. Yeah, I think in World War II, it was 30% or less of the troops actually tried to, actually kill the enemy or whatever you want to say. They just fired their guns ineffectively or didn't fire at all or fired up in the air. I think it was less than 30%. Naturally, our emotional proclivities are not to harm and kill and maim. And if somebody does have those things, we call them a sociopath, and rightly so. So I don't
Right,
understand where this idea comes from that these things can be romanticized or cheered on, or it's just all about the packaging. I mean, we've already talked about this. It's just the way they wrap it up in this idea around it, and they just brainwash everybody from a very young age. It's horrific. That's for
right,
sure. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So getting back to the ideas of the founders.
right. Yeah,
So I think the idea is that a lot of vegans I see online nowadays, they're just like it's only about the animals, and anybody who says there's ever anything else involved in this is just full of BS. That's not veganism and all this. So you went back and listened to some of the founders' essays. So what would you now say to those people who put forth that proposition?
I mean, right. Obviously, well, first of all, I mean, we also have to put things like into perspective and give context to this thing, because obviously, when the founders first thought of these ideas, I mean, not only was the thing wasn't so horrible as it is now, but the problem is certain problems of the societies that they were in weren't like they are now. Like everyone's trying to make some problem, like some of the to me, it's like, I don't know. There's two things here. Like, for example, if we're talking about the benefits to humanity, because Leslie Cross did say something about uh, liberating animals being like the ultimate step in our evolution or something like that, that this was like our way to finally evolve as we were meant to, or something like along those lines. And so that this would bring he was talking about the what it would bring to humanity if we did away with the animal use and consumption and oppression and stuff like that. Which, okay, it's fine. I'm not saying that that could not be a goal or whatever, but the problem is that because we know how people actually behave, and especially in this day and age where social media has given any regular Joe a platform to become this famous person or whatever by basically existing. Because, oh, look at me, I'm playing a video game. Now I'm famous. Like, what is this? Like, I have, so now everyone can just make anything about themselves. And then to not help the animals, they'll come up with stuff like, oh no, but what about this issue? And then they make it about something else. And then they throw the animals under the bus yet again. And that's what I don't want. Now, I know Roger and Andy were saying that this is not going to happen, that that's not a thing, and that maybe that those are some people who do that or say that, but they have like no real power or anything. But as long as those ideas actually exist, they're gonna gain traction, because what do most ex-vegans do in their ex-vegan videos? Oh, this thing, I wasn't vibing with this, and this is like, some people say that it's a misanthropic movement because it goes against human health, it goes against human whatever. I don't know. So to me, whatever benefit. And the other thing is, we are their oppressors. It's not that we're trying to free these animals from some or someone else. It's from ourselves. So if we're trying to see what benefit will bring to us, man, we're the ones who enslaved them. Like, can we just make it about them, and then whatever thing comes to us is okay, thank you, but not really the thing. I don't know. That's what I think initially. I don't know. I don't know what you can tell me about it.
So I've spent quite a bit of time. I mean, I've been vegan for a long time, and the thing that initially attracted me to it from the way that I came about was actually its effects on the human psychology. Understanding that the human psychology is the linchpin behind all of these atrocities is this idea of human supremacy, this
Mm-hmm.
idea of anthropocentrism. These
Uh-huh.
are the underlying principles that support all these other things. And animal agriculture and the use of our animals, other sentient beings or even non-sentient beings, is the linchpin in that paradigm. And that's what directly needs to be attacked. But the reason why I always bring this up to people is that I just feel that it's disingenuous for a vegan to say that it has never had anything to do with the environment or people. There has never been a point where the vegan society or any vegan that I'm aware of that has been involved in the movement for a while has ever made their advocacy about a human issue. I've never heard of that. I've never seen that. But to say that the founders were not aware of the possible carryover effects or the hope for these carryover
Uh-huh.
effects upon the human psyche in regards to us viewing ourselves as this narcissistic center of everything and everything is here for us, I think that's just disingenuous and it's just factually incorrect. And I don't care about what people want to do and what they want to present on their sites or do whatever. It's always best to be operating from the truth and understanding where you're actually coming from. Just to me, that's just very important to be honest. That's the main thing
Right.
that I think we need to focus on, even as vegans. Like, there's all this disparity in the vegan movement about what it's meant to be and all this. If you go back and you look at any of that stuff, they bring up the environment, they bring up the soil health, they bring up food inequality, and then you fast forward to like 2005 or the early 2000s was one of the last things I read. The leader of the new vegan society at that time was saying, look, we've educated people about the effects on animals, about the effects on humanity, about the effects on the environment. These things have been part of the educational process of veganism for the entire time. And just because somebody is not willing to go back and actually read the histories and they just want to look at somebody on YouTube what they're saying and to start to parrot it, I just think that's disingenuous and I think it does a disservice to the movement.
Well, that's the thing, right? That because yeah, they were talking about the what benefits it could bring to humanity and also the environment. As you say, it is true that they were talking about these issues as well. And yeah, I think it is important to read all of that and to know where this thing actually comes from and what they were trying to achieve. And sure, in a perfect world, we could say, yeah, this is about the animals, the environment, and also humanity, because it will be like it's. I don't know. I think it's kind of crazy that yeah, if we went vegan, everyone would benefit from it. The animals would benefit, the environment, like the earth, whatever the would benefit, and we would benefit from a health standpoint and from psychological health also, because no slaughterhouses, no more farms, there's no more abuse to animals, so we're not going to be having these uh, people in these horrible conditions being subjected to this thing that they have to perform all the time every day because they work there and they have to basically disconnect themselves from their own humanity even.
Yes, this is the
So
danger they recognize. This is the thing. Focusing all these things on our narcissistic tendencies and our little primate brains and the way that we want to control and have power, that is the underlying linchpin of all of it. It's expressed through animal exploitation and death and destruction. It's expressed through thinking the environment is here for us and that we can manipulate it and do whatever we want with it. These things are expressed that way. But those are merely expressions. Those are not the underlying factor. It's like when somebody gets cancer and they want to treat it with all these drugs and these things, and they don't want to look at, well, hey, it's actually the things that I've done in my life that have brought me to this point and take responsibility for that. It's about taking ultimate responsibility for our own humanity, for we're the linchpin species of the planet. We can have everything flourish, or we can have everything get destroyed. Right? That's within our power. Staley Shrow really has a really cool thing. He's a vegan engineer who has a lot of great books, and he runs like the Earth Healers Forum and all these other sorts of things. And he's like, you know what humanity really needs is a new story. Humanity needs a new story where our ego's not, or our scared little ego that needs protection is not at the center of it.
right.
That's what we need to do. And veganism recognizes this. And sure, they put it in different terms or whatever, but if you go back and look at these essays and these things that the founders and people beyond that said, look at what Tom Regan said. Look at what Gary Francione has said, right? There's another guy who teaches philosophy. His name is escaping me right now. I think he teaches in Houston. Um, anyways, he's had some great things about, the psychology behind all this and how it's all tied together. So I don't know. Just to me, it's always been important that the truth be told and that you operate from the truth, because these can all be powerful levers for advocacy, right? If somebody's not buying this whole thing about, well, animals, well, whatever, it's like, okay, how do you feel humanity itself is progressing by doing these actions? Can you project 30 years in the future where humanity is going to be if we continue to view animals as resources? these automatons and not
Right.
as personalities with a right to life of their own accord.
Right.
Why not have that in your toolbox? I don't understand this idea where people want to limit themselves.
Yeah, I guess one thing that was, I think it was kind of funny was that in that live stream with Roger, he mentioned that probably some vegans that say that no, veganism is about the animals. Whatever happens to humans, who cares? He was like, "Oh no, that comes from Gary Jurovsky." He was like this misanthropist guy, and people
Yeah,
from him they get this idea. Like, and I was thinking, man, I really love that speech by, by Gary Jurovsky.
sure. Hey, I
But
mean,
I mean,
you
here's
know,
the thing:
so
I was a misanthropist way before I was vegan, so I already hated humans. So when I found out about these horrible things, I said, "Hey, now I have an actual motive, an actual reason to, to be this way." But no, in a serious, I mean, here's the thing: like, there's two issues here with the human thing. Of course, if it can bring these benefits to humanity, that's great, and it can. That's the saddest part, that this thing will benefit you, will benefit the earth, and will benefit the animals. It's a win-win-win situation, and people still like, no, that's colonialism. It's not. It's woke, or it's white, or it's whatever. It's like, come on, really? Like, it's going to benefit everyone. This thing about no, not everyone can do it, that's not true, because if enough of us could do it, there would be a moment where food security would not be an issue anymore, because there would be so much of plant foods that we can afford to give everyone these plant foods, and it won't be a thing that there's no this thing about food deserts and stuff like that. That will not be a thing anymore. Like, I don't know, like, if were all on board with this thing, all we would eat would be plants and other things, like, fruits, vegetables, all that. So that would be the only food available, and everyone would have that. So I don't understand, it would be everywhere. So I don't really understand what's the problem exactly. Like, okay, so today that's not really a possibility. Okay, but there's only like, what was the last measure of this thing? Like, we were like 1.1% of people were vegan. It's nothing. It's like one, like, out of every 10 people, one is a vegan, and then the other nine are not. I don't know if it was, at least if we take it. I've heard that if we take it to 20%, we can already see like the big changes and stuff. But I don't know this how these percentages work, or how they affect this thing, and I don't know. We'll see down the line. But of course, that part of the human issue, let's say, okay, I can get on board with that. But there's this other issue now, that people have this thing, or this tendency to see like, no, veganism. You think you care more about an animal than about this human issue here, with this thing, with the the racial stuff, and the sexuality stuff, and all that. And it's like, yeah, but those are man-made issues, and everyone knows that being discriminating against others, uh, just because they're different, or they're from another country, or they speak different, or whatever it is, we all know that's wrong already. And most people who are oppressed by this racial stuff are also oppressing animals themselves. So I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. I don't feel like including this other stuff in veganism right now, until a point where all of these people also become vegan themselves. Then we could say, hey, these people who are doing this thing, and we're all in this together, and hey, why now we can put a focus on that other issue. But right now, I don't know. When I'm doing, I mean, if we're gonna talk about veganism, is this thing is primarily for the animals, at least. That is going to be the priority always, at least to me.
absolutely. I
Like
mean,
we said,
I
that's
would,
the focus.
yeah. I mean, and I would concur with that. I mean, I would never be one to say that we need to put any sort of, particularly a single human issue, whether it be a very broad category such as racism or sexism or whatever, as an advocacy point to bring up with people.
Right. And
What
then,
I'll say
yeah,
it, I'll say it again. What I have a problem with is people being disingenuous and saying that it's not part of it. I don't care what your advocacy is, whatever works to get people involved in the thing. And I'll tell you, like I kind of intimated initially, to me, I found it initially more interesting about the psychological effects upon humanity of this approach to life than I did about animals and the effects on animals. I
right,
realized it was horrific, and I certainly had empathy for the animals, but the thing that interested me the most was its effect upon the human psychology and this idea of human supremacy. So I just don't understand why people don't want to have that knowledge in their mind. It's like they don't even want to go back and read the history or accept the history to be true. They just want to
right,
close their eyes. And now aren't we acting like the very carnists that we're trying to change? We're closing our eyes to truth and reality. How is it that we're going to bring forward this paradigm when we're falling into the same traps due to tribalism and all these other things within the movement, just because it's maybe stroking our ego or what we think things are about because of our initial contact with veganism was about that. And that's what touched us, right? I'm an animal warrior. It's for the animals. I sure, and the founders would not disagree with that. But the scope of it, this is why I really appreciate what Roger Yates always frames it as. There's a focus and a scope to the philosophy. The focus is and always has been and should be about human to non-human relationship.
right,
That is
exactly.
the primary focus. But
Of
to
course.
ignore the scope, I feel, is not bringing any sort of benefit. I don't get it. I mean, but that's just me. I understand your points, and I know how people certainly make things about humans. But if that gets them on our side and changes the paradigm, so what? That's the goal. The goal is
Oh,
to change
I
what's
see. I see
happening.
what you mean. I see what you. I think I see what you mean now. Yeah, right. That if we, right, exactly. That if we show these different uh, angles, so to speak, more people could be on board with the thing. Maybe that's what captivates them, like it happened to
Yes.
you. Like you're saying right now, that you saw the
Yep.
effects on the human, and you
Hmm.
thought maybe this is the way to go because look at this thing, and
Yep.
you went in from that angle, and then you saw all about all these other stuff, and okay, you were convinced like, hey, this is the way to go. And for me,
Yeah.
it's interesting because I used to not care about anything at all, really. I was just a selfish person, very individualistic, but it was that individuality was the very thing that made me into a vegan because when I finally recognized that the animals were individuals, that I was basically controlling their lives and saying, hey, you're gonna be born this date and you're gonna die at this. What? I'm taking their individuality away. So why? How come am I trying to fight for my individuality, my rights to do whatever I want, and they not don't give them the same thing to them?
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I have to fight for their right to the individual. So that's what got me. So in a way, you could say that also the human aspect, like recognizing the human aspect or the personhood aspect in the animal is what got me to think, if I want this thing for myself, why am I taking it away from others? So
Right.
so that's very interesting because that's what really lit the spark for me. And then I made it all about the animals because what I'm telling you is that because we are their oppressors, to me it feels kind of wrong to say to people that you're going to get this reward for doing this thing, kind of like giving them a lollipop for like doing, to a kid, for, oh, you behave well, so take this lollipop. There's no lollipop. Like if you do this thing, do it selflessly. I don't know, but it
Sure.
is very interesting what you're saying now, and I kind of see your point now better, because obviously when we're like chatting and stuff and in these live chats, there's not much room for interpretation of things. That's why it's good to have these talks and stuff, and I kind of see it. I'm kind of seeing what you mean with this, and it is an interesting thing. And we should certainly not dismiss all that history and all the intention of the founders and stuff. So yeah, I do think that we do need to speak about these things. But there's the other thing I wanted to say is that why the environment. The problem with the environment is if we find, because these industries, these meat industries, they could find a way to exploit animals and make it more sustainable than the plant farming thing. Maybe, I don't know. And if they do, then how do we really pitch it as an environmentally sound strategy? Like, hey, no, this is about the environment. Oh, look, but actually, this regenerative grazing, whatever, is better. And it turns out to be better. We can't use this environmental angle anymore. So, to me, that's why I try to focus it on the animal because it's the only thing that cannot change. Like, if you want a pork chop, you have to kill a pig. There's no way around it. Now, this lab grown thing is another issue altogether, but that not taking it right now into consideration, if that wasn't a thing, if you want a pork chop, you're gonna have to kill a pig. There's no way around it. Now, if you want a pork chop, you can have it more environmentally friendly or less, depending on whatever grass fed. I don't know. I don't know if that's even true or not. Maybe just another selling point that they're making, or just to sell it for a higher price, whatever. I don't know. But let's say that this is true, that there's a way to make it more environmentally friendly. So you lose the angle of the animal suffering and the animal being an individual who deserves to exist and not be commodified by us. You lose the angle of the environment.
Yeah.
And the human, you could also lose that angle because what if they make it healthier to somehow, I don't know, technology makes it so eating this flesh could be healthier. So I don't know. So that's the thing for me. It could lead to veganism basically losing these angles just because because yeah, by not focusing on the angle that, hey, you're still using the animal for something and they're an individual and you should just leave them. So I don't know. I don't know. That's what I think.
Yeah, in regards to the environment, I agree that that could be a danger, and there is already a little bit of a danger in adopting environmental things when they talk about animals, because they tend to view animals as like herds or these things that are doing something within the broader scope of the environment and not
Exactly.
individuals, right? But remember, we're not. This is one of the things that I think brings us strength to the idea of keeping in touch with the roots of it, because there's
Right.
more to human anthropocentric activities that destroy the earth, not that are not related to animal farming, and animal
Oh, of
use.
course.
And these things are going to affect our ability to make new drugs for ourselves because the ecosystems that produce the plants in the Amazon, for instance, are being destroyed or have been destroyed. And whether it's for whatever purpose, I think just that understanding that the core idea is that all these things are revolving around us and they have effects. Sure, okay, so we take the environmental thing out away from the animals, and now it's like some less environmentally impactful thing. Well, what about all these other pollutants that are being put into the air that affect us, right?
That's
So
also
that's
correct.
that's
Yeah.
like when you learn about the effects of leaded gas on IQ levels for all those years that it was put into in use, that's a crime against humanity.
Ah, of
Okay,
course. Yeah.
and so excluding humanity and the effects of humans from the vegan movement, it just all in my mind, all it does is weaken it. It just weakens it because it provides less angles of attack. It provides less angles to pull levers in people's minds to get them on board. If I have to hand out 10,000 freaking lollipops, as you might say, to get people to look at veganism seriously, I'll open up my wallet any time to do that. If that's what it takes to get people on board, I think I think it's just not a good idea to exclude all these things because we've built up a paradigm about what we believe veganism to be without looking at it and taking it into a real introspection about how are we going to get to the goal. Can we be so particular about our own proclivities and say, no, it must be about only the animals? Okay, so if that weakens our position, why would that be taken on as an effective strategy? To me, it makes no sense. As long as people are doing what makes them happy and keeps them engaged in their activism, I would never tell somebody not to do that and to take on these other things. I would never do that. Activists have to believe in what they're doing, they have to have passion, and they have to have drive to continue to do that. And if you want to think, hey, I'm focusing on the animals and that's what I believe is the biggest thing, that's fine. But to say, oh, it's never been about animals and oh, it's never been about the environment and oh, that's just doing this and that, I don't know. That you're just not being factual.
Right. Well, something.
I don't know.
Right. No, of course, of course. Right. Reasonable vegan, by the way, is here.
Oh,
Let
hey,
me let
Carson.
me check some of the comments because we haven't checked the comments. Tyke is here. Tyke 269 is here. We have a bunch of comments. Let me see. Oh, Corbett Moon. Who else joined this thing? Well, there's many here. Don't care. Da, 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 talking to each other. If you guys have a question for any of us or the two of us, also please leave that in the comments. Let me see.
Here's an interesting question from
What
Angela.
the
Is
heck
it just
happened here? Is it just me, or do you guys see Republicans in this country making veganism illegal for children, like in Germany? Well, I'll tell you my answer. They sure, I'm pretty sure most of them would love it if it was illegal. But the same can be said about these Democrats and stuff. Leftists are also against veganism for other reasons, and they might try to make it also illegal. Who knows? So I don't know. I don't think it's just a Republican thing, really, or a conservative thing. It can be. It can come from both sides, certainly, but for different reasons. Oh, so if I just press this thing, I just found out this
Oh,
thing.
look at that.
Oh man, I
Progress.
was
All right.
man alive. Don't tell me that this was just the only thing I had to do. I just pressed this thing by mistake and it showed the message. Oh my god. Let me see. Okay, reasonable. Let's put
Hey,
you on the spot. Do you guys think that to be
this
a true
this isn't
vegan, you have to be an activist?
so this is an interesting question actually. So you know how people bandy about different definitions of veganism, all this stuff. So not your mom, not your milk. Andy, he posted a video where Ronnie Lee was speaking at one of the vegan campouts, and he was talking about the gentleman who was doing a hunger fast or whatever back in the early 90s or 90s, and he actually passed away doing his hunger fast against the government of England not holding up its end of its promises. But in a guy came on stage from some sort of an organization in Britain, and they gave their definition of what they thought veganism was or should be, and it was pretty much the same as what was on the Vegan Society's website. But at the end of it, they added on this thing where the moral baseline is activism. To be a vegan, that the moral baseline is having to be an activist.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Well,
So I thought
well,
that was an interesting idea, expanding upon the idea that just being
oh,
a vegan is the moral baseline, and then adding, like, well, no, you actually have to be not just as passive, I'm a vegan, kind of this non action, but by taking a step forward and having to be an activist. And of course, they didn't define what activism was because somebody putting up a sticker or commenting in a chats regularly on non vegan content, that's an activist for sure. But I thought it was interesting to have this part of an official definition.
right, exactly. Okay, so the activism thing. Here's the thing, right? Because some people, and I think I've seen some videos by Lifting Vegan Logic and other guys like George Martin, probably trying to answer this question, like, do you have to be an activist, or is it just enough that you eat lettuce and shut up? Well, here's the thing. If you shut up about this thing, are you really doing the thing that you want? Because here's the thing. If you want to free animals from human exploitation, which seems to be the objective, how are you going to do that if no one else around you wants the same thing, and there's not much awareness about this, and you have to do something, right? Because you want this injustice to end. So by not bringing awareness to it and just eating lentils and for yourself, are you really like a vegan, or what is that? I don't know. It's weird to me. It's like you have to say something like that. That's like the number one rule of the vegan club, right? You have to say I'm vegan, otherwise you lose your membership.
Well, this is kind of like the whole pick me vegan thing that I kind of get my panties up in a bunch about, all the time.
Ah,
Like saying
we're
that
gonna
just
get to
because
that
somebody,
in a moment. Yeah,
right? Okay,
yeah.
so I'll wait to dive into that. But I just thought it was interesting that this, and I think I asked a question somewhere, or I found out that that particular organization is still using that definition of veganism within their own organization or in their front facing to the public, that has this idea of the moral responsible or the moral baseline being activism as part of it. I think they still adhere to that proprietary definition. It's kind of
Right.
interesting.
And nowadays it's so easy to spread the vegan message, like just by wearing clothes that says go vegan or whatever it is, and or doing something like, and obviously not everyone is comfortable doing uh, everything. Like for example, there used to be, it was more popular to do this disruptive stuff and these direct actions and stuff, because that was the only way to get attention back in the day, was that way. Like there was no YouTube where you could just have conversations and stuff with people. That wasn't a possibility. You had to really like go there and do these things. And that's how Gary ended up being, banned from who knows how many countries, and I think he was even in prison at some point. So it's like, man, it's terrible. Like, and he had to, like, saying like, okay, he's in prison with a bunch of criminals, and he's like, yeah, I just saved some minks from a laboratory or something. Yeah, that's my crime. Like, what the heck? Obviously, his crime wasn't that. His crime was that he took property from some place and did X amount of damage in dollars. That's the crime. And really, that's just what it is. Here in Houston, by the way, it's funny because this news article actually this happened. There's this university here, and they had this farm project or whatever, and someone broke in and killed the cows. And oh, the police is going to investigate this crime and stuff. And I was, really? The police is going to investigate the crime of someone breaking and entering and killing cows, not because they killed the cows, because that's not the crime, because they were going to get killed anyway. That's not the crime. The crime is that they broke in and damaged property that belonged to the university. That's
Yeah,
that's the crime. The crime is not that they killed cows.
yeah.
And when I live, I used to live somewhere else where I live in a house. There was these peacocks in the community, so they were roaming around and stuff. One of the peacocks got run over by a car, and they made a funeral for the peacock, a
Mhm.
vigil and everything, flowers, all of that for the peacock. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And then they like, oh, come to the barbecue, come to the donut, whatever. I'm like, really? So you're having a peacock
Have some
funeral,
chicken.
a
Yeah.
funeral for the NBC logo, and you're not having a funeral, like, and you're munching on chickens, and what is this? You know, it's just the thing, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. But that's the thing. Like back in the day, that was the activism, because that's how you got noticed. No one knew about these things, so the people who knew had to actually go there and enter these laboratories and enter these farms and do this thing and record all that footage that we now see from Earthlings and Dominion and all that. Someone had to do that, and it must be horrible going through that.
Yeah.
And right now, it's so easy just to have like an Instagram account or TikTok or whatever and just talk about these issues.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
Yeah.
this answers the actual question or not, but I do think that if you're going to be a vegan, you have to talk about this thing, because if you're a vegan, it means, to me, it means that you want to end the slavery of animals. So you cannot end it by not talking about it. It seems to me, and just letting it happen, because we are the participants in this thing, like our family members, our friends, they are participating in this thing. So it's a direct thing. So you have to talk about it. Otherwise, there's not gonna be an end to this. I don't.
Yeah.
That's my answer. But you go ahead and give your answer.
Well, I mean, I concur, and I think it was Angela that was bringing up that it's not necessarily a moral obligation, but it's certainly virtuous to be an activist in whatever way that you see fit. Um, like, I don't know, I've never been accused of being a pick me vegan or whatever, but I often step to the defense of these so-called pick me vegans because you don't know what they're doing with their partners. You don't know what they're doing in these groups they get involved in. And I've actually had the mindset of like, I want to be in this group. I want to spread veganism. To be in this group, I have to be picked. So
Mm.
I'm not gonna endanger that process, but I'm certainly not going to take step back from my moral standpoint and my ethics. But I will present it in such a way that it's very subtle. Just like using a lot of these tactics that companies use to be very subtle in the approach and getting into people's psychology, like in a lot of game groups that come up. I played this one game. It was funny. It's called Terraforming Mars. I was playing with some buddies, and there's this
All right.
victory card. There's this card that had these victory points and stuff. And it was about figuring out how to raise cows on Mars. I laughed and I said, "What the fuck? You think we're going to be able to get to Mars while we're still thinking about raising cows? Like, how's that going to work? We're going to go up there and start raising cows to destroy this new terraforming thing we're doing on Mars." And that's what I left it at. I didn't carry on. I just laughed and kind of made it like this joke. That's the way to slip these ideas into people's minds, right? Like, you don't have to be always so confrontational and derail whatever else is going
Right.
on in these social situations, right? Like, I don't agree with some of these ideas that you can't be this pick me vegan and use that as like a ninja approach. I would never say to a vegan that you're not vegan because you're not screaming in someone's face and you're not putting it up on YouTube. I didn't get involved in YouTube until even less, almost a year ago. And I've been a vegan activist, to one degree or another for 23 years. Is somebody going to tell me I'm a vegan or I'm a fucking pick me vegan? I get a little pissed off at
Oh
that
no.
sort of idea.
All right.
It's like if
So
somebody's not comfortable doing that sort of activism, but they just maybe make an offhand comment or they just wear a shirt or they put a sticker somewhere. I mean, all of these things are helping get the idea of veganism into people's minds. I think that is beneficial. And this tearing apart the movement, what's the benefit? What benefit is being done to the movement by all these labels within the movement? What is the utility? What's the utility of it? Does it make you feel better? Is that your virtue signaling? Saying, well, look at me, I'm not a pick me vegan, but he is. What's the point of that?
right.
What's the point of that?
Right.
What's the point of it?
Right. So okay. So now we got to the pick me thing that you wanted also to talk about the aspect of the virtue signaling, the tribalism within the community or within the movement, and the gatekeeping and all that, right? And the pick me vegans. So it depends on how you define pick me vegans. You think a pick me is just someone who just eats lentils and never talks about it with anyone else, as to not bother them? Because to me, for example, if let's say I never talk about these issues with anyone and I just keep to myself, but I never even mention the thing, I don't think I'm really being a pick me. Maybe I'm just not comfortable in these situations, or I don't have all the necessary knowledge or stuff. Because at first I was completely, like this, it was a completely new thing for me, so I wasn't really too, yeah, like too sure of how to approach this thing, how to talk about it or anything. So I kept to myself mostly because I was completely ignorant on most stuff. I just knew I wanted to not hurt animals and stuff, and I wanted others to also not do it. And actually, what I started to do before I went vegan, in fact, many years before, I started talking about these issues and about veganism and stuff, and I try to, like, just to make the veganism thing, to bring awareness to it, to the existence of it, to my family, to my friends, whatever, even when I wasn't one. But what I found out was that they laughed at me and stuff, and because I was eating animals, there was no way for me to actually speak about it in an effective way, because I was doing the thing I was saying it was wrong to do. But now with this vegan thing, I don't think that's being a, but telling others like, oh, I'm not going to tell you, that, yeah, you can eat your whatever means meat or whatever. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. That's when I say that's now you're being a pick me vegan, when you say I'm not like those other ones that they're
Oh,
gonna tell you to do this thing or else you're not a good person or something. The problem is I'm not saying that initially you're a bad person because you consume animals, because you may not be aware of these horrible things. To you, they're just a product because you view them all your life as a product. It's the programming that you have in your brain, and it's something that is could be difficult to deprogram or debug yourself from. So yeah, it could be something difficult to deprogram this thing and to flip that switch. So I'm not going to judge you at first too much, but if you see Earthlings and Dominion and stuff, and now you understand all of these things happening, and you tell me at the end of it, whatever, man, who cares? Pass me give me the pepperoni pizza or whatever. Now I'm going gloves off. Now I'm just taking my gloves off. That's it. End of the nice Mr. Nice veganist. No, no. Now we're going at it because no, like if you're aware of these things, you cannot just like, I mean, you can physically not care about it, of course you cannot, but then what does that say about a person who does that? I don't know. I don't know.
Um, it just maybe they have social anxiety. Maybe they're not. Maybe they've been lonely all their life. If finally somebody that at least accepts them for being vegan, they don't want to put that in jeopardy. There's a thousand reasons
That's
that are
another issue.
legitimate, right? So I would never put a pick me vegan on the spot in that regard. I would certainly maybe give them recommendations for non-invasive ways that they might be comfortable doing activism if they really wanted to talk about it. But I would never denigrate them or attack them or label them. Do you think some a movement that came out of a non-violent peace paradigm, how would the founders feel about us labeling each other and attacking each other and destroying the movement in some regards, or making the movement look even less desirable from the outside by having all these labels and these things that are in our minds and saying that I'm superior to you and giving labeling people a pick me vegan? Like you don't even know their situation. There's somebody online. But granted, my idea of pick me vegan, I think I mentioned this to you before when we had a little bit of an exchange in a chat during one of your live discussions with someone else. I'm
Right.
not necessarily understanding what other people mean by pick me vegan, and if there's this aspect of apologist or
I mean,
bootlicking to it, that could be a problem, sure. But once again, that person's personal situation, I don't know what is motivating them psychologically to do that. I don't know. I'm not
well,
going to attack them for it.
that's also true. There's this social aspect of the thing, right? Because we're social creatures. Well, most of us, I guess. And I guess for people who are not so social, I guess it's easier to just be like, no, I'm not going to be this pick me person, or to label others as these pick me people or something. Because someone could accuse me of being a pick me vegan, even because I
Sure.
don't go that hard with my family or something.
Right.
I'm more, it's not that I'm lenient. I do bring up the subject as much as I can, especially when they share ridiculous nonsense against veganism. And I do go hard. I do go like, hey, no, this is ridiculous. This is not. This is this. That I go by my own style. But the thing is that I'm not as like, it's easier to just berate someone you don't even know, and that you know that you're just seeing them on the street and you're not gonna see them ever again in your life. It's easier to treat them that way than to someone that you have to live with every day, or something, like someone who's close to you or something. That's a different angle. So you're trying to get them to see this thing from another thing, because you worry about them. You're like, you want the best for them also, and you know that this is the healthiest choice, the best thing they can do for themselves, for the animals, for all these things that we all talked about. So you try to bring up this thing, and of course you're going to be a little bit softer on it. Some vegans do say that, no, I just, I did away with my family, I don't talk to them, and I've been like 25 years since I saw my brother or whatever. I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I cannot just detach myself from my family, even if they do these horrible things that I don't want them to do, because I want them to change. And I didn't really change from, I mean, I did change from one moment to the other, but it took me years to finally understand why I had to do it. So from the moment I found out about veganism, that it was even a thing, to the moment I went vegan, I think it was like 12 years. So like, it's something like that, 10 years, about 10 years. So when finding out about this thing, because I thought vegetarians were crazy, and when I saw this vegan thing, I was like, what, there's even a new level of this thing? Like, vegetarians are already these crazy pale hippies, and there's vegans now, what is this? So and the only like vegan activist I knew about was Vegan Games. So as you can imagine, I thought vegans were these crazy wackos on YouTube,
Sure.
and that was just my perception of it. And I was like, no, I don't want to be this thing. And then I thought, on the other hand, there was this other thing. I thought at some point that veganism, because most vegans that I knew about talked about this thing from a supply and demand angle. They're always they were always talking about, no, these meat industries, and these things. So I always thought that this was just some anti-capitalist thing or some communist ploy to just bankrupt these very successful industries. And I thought, no, this is just some communist ploy in disguise and stuff. And, and because I hate everything communism, I was like, no, I just took whatever I hated, made that into veganism, and ran away with it for 10 years until I understood that this wasn't the case. But going back to the pygmy thing, even I could be considered a pygmy by some other standards, because
Sure.
there's other people who, like, no, I don't even talk to my family, or I don't even have like a non-vegan partner. I could never. And like, maybe that's you, but I would not. I mean, I would have a non-vegan girlfriend only to annoy her into becoming a vegan.
Right.
That
As
would
a
be
way to
like my
reel them into
idol. Like,
veganism.
I want a
Yeah.
non-vegan lady in my life so I can make her into a vegan with my
Yeah.
annoyance. Like, why would I want an
Yeah.
already vegan lady? Like, that doesn't make any much sense. Like, sure, we're gonna have a better time going to restaurants and stuff, but or cooking at home. But the thing is that, it's like I want to convert someone that I need to convert, and what better than the person you're spending most of your life with? So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
angle. And that's another thing that I talk. I don't know. Yeah, you were there when I was talking to my friend Revolta, right? Marlene
Yeah.
the other day, and we were talking
Yep.
about this thing that we need to actually socialize with these non-vegan people to make them vegans. Otherwise, they're never going to come to the idea by themselves. If everyone just keeps to their own group, so I guess this is also could play into that tribalism that you were talking about, that you wanted to talk about.
Yes.
That we make this
Yeah.
into these little groups, and no, my group is this, and I'm going to hang out with only this, and then we lose the thing. We're How can we bring people to be vegan and liberate the animals if we're just going to hang out amongst ourselves,
Yeah.
and it doesn't make any, we're not making any progress. We're just
Yeah.
making a social club, and that's the other thing. Like the vegan society, at the end of the day, it's a social club. That's what it was founded as, right? It's was this
Yeah.
social club. You could be a member, you could be an affiliate, whatever, and you could be in it as much as it was possible for you. And Leslie Cross did say this about the you're doing your best, your honest best
Yep.
effort.
Your honest best. Yeah.
And the honest best, it's interesting because, yeah, of course, we could do the honest best, but sometimes some people could exploit that to mean, well, I'm doing my honest best, and honestly, I can eat lobsters on Sundays. So that's not your honest best. To me, that doesn't seem like someone's honest best. Well, how do you tell them otherwise?
I mean, that shit doesn't even, I don't even care about that anymore. Somebody wants to claim they're vegan and then somebody sees them eating lobsters and fish and all that. It's just, the movement's going to self-correct for those people, but you don't have to attack them or necessarily do whatever. You can just ostracize them, just by ignoring them or just like making a joke about them. I mean, obviously those
Right.
people are just, they're lying. I don't care. When being a vegan is going to hit, when the tires are going to hit the pavement or whatever, is when it comes time to stand behind your convictions in either a political way or an activism way or some sort of a justice focused way. And then the sunshine vegans are going to fall away. Those vegans that call themselves vegans for just likes or for more followers or for a while the movement's kind of like on a high wave, and then as the wave goes down, well, maybe I wasn't so vegan. Those vegans will fall away regardless. It doesn't matter. I don't care if somebody wants to claim they're vegan online. I can't see their daily activities. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if you're vegan. I don't know if Carson's vegan. I don't know if any of you people are really vegan, right? All I can do is speak for myself. So there's already this
That's true.
aspect of we just have to trust each other to be vegan. That's fine with me. I don't have any concern about people who aren't vegan and who are claiming to be. Whatever. Sure, it might inflate our numbers, but I think inflating our numbers is only a good thing because it'll make it seem more respectable and more accepted. So I don't mind that. That's like they're actually going against their own game by wanting to do that. They're helping vegans by being not a disingenuous vegan because it's going to make it look like it's more accepted. It's going to swell the numbers in the polls. That only does us good. And if they fall on the wayside when it comes time to cast a vote or to stand by a principle, yeah, whatever, those people are going to fall away anyways. I don't even care about that. I just
Well,
don't understand.
it might just be true. Yeah, exactly.
What's the utility of labeling someone a pick me vegan if it's not just making yourself feel better? Are you trying to shame a pick me vegan into being more active? Is that the best way to do it, as opposed to veganism is an educational movement? Why don't we educate the pick me vegans as to, like, look, there's all these ways that you can do subtle activism if that's the problem. If they have an issue with like calling out family members or friends or not having this kind of this apologetic aspect to their personality,
Right,
well, what
right.
are we going to do? We're going to attack their personality and call them some sort of a wacko or something? Like,
I
I don't
mean,
know.
sure.
It's just violence, man. It's just all violence against other people. Whether you're labeling them, you're attacking them psychologically. How do you think Joey Carbstrong feels with all these people attacking him and his poor performance? How do you think that makes him feel? Vegans attacking him for his weak stance during the debate with Tristan Tate. Is
That
that
was
beneficial to do that? Is it beneficial to call out Joey Carbstrong? Oh, why don't you do this? Why didn't you do that? He was being a fucking pick me vegan? He was bootlicking Tristan Tate. What the hell? And how does that make him feel to call him that? Does it help his advocacy?
right. Exactly. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Actually, that's a really good point. I think that, yeah, like calling out Joy Carson in this regard doesn't really help much, I guess. And people from outside of veganism are gonna see these vegans talking about that, and they might have like a wrong impression or something. But here's the thing, I that oh man, that debate. Sorry, I mean
It was bad.
when the thing cut off, that were having problems with the, I was ready to just log off and not see anymore. I was like, no.
Yeah, same here.
And
Yeah,
it was also basically right at the beginning of the thing. I was like, I'm ready to check out. I don't want to see any more of this. It was just no. But then obviously, like I said this to someone else. Like we can all be like these couch coaches. You know, everyone can be like a coach from home. Like, no, no, you should have done this thing or you should have done that thing. Yeah, from the comfort of your home, you can say that. But going to some other person's like platform or something where they have all the advantage, all the home advantage, basically, all the followers, all these things, and then these guys like really didn't really let him do anything. This Tristan was just prepared to just listen to himself talk and not let Joey have anything to say. Basically, it was just a trap to have Tristan just say the very thing he wanted to say. That, oh, I don't care, and God's image. Yeah, goodbye. That's it.
yeah,
And that was the trap. And Joey, what he wanted to do was not to convince Tristan of anything because he knew he wasn't going to do that. Let alone in just one talk, that's not going to happen. So he wanted to maybe reach out to these uh, whatever thousand followers that Tristan had, and maybe, hey, look at this. I'm a vegan. This is what I do. This is who I am. And look at this thing. Like veganism is not this alien thing, or this. He tried to make the point that vegans aren't these, soy boys or whatever it is. And even Tristan said this. Hey, no, I don't subscribe to the idea that a man who eats meat, that's a manly man. But like some man who eats vegetables or whatever, that's not a, like a man. Like, no, he
yeah.
doesn't subscribe to that. So he got Tristan to at least say that. So that's a good thing because the perception from many people, especially the Tristan fan base, it's gonna be a bunch of dudes who this type of alpha dude, whatever it is, giga. I don't even know now what alphabet letter it is, and it's like I don't know. It's all a show anyway. I don't really think Tristan doesn't care or anything. I don't think. I mean, I don't really think that even the most evil person is devoid of all humanity. I think unless you have like something wrong in your brain and you're like a psychopath or something because there's
Yeah.
something actually wrong physically in your brain, but any normal functioning person is not going to be devoid of all empathy or something like that. So I don't even think Tristan is mostly just a character that he plays on the screen. We all know that this is just characters, trying to get followers
Yeah.
and likes and be influencers or whatever it is. So that's the thing, And okay, reasonable says rich, rich, rich 3 times. So he saw
Oh,
me
look, three
here,
times.
like Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Loving everything you're saying. Oh no,
Oh, thanks,
reasonable
Carson.
is loving everything you're saying. Be careful.
Yeah. Well, this is what's funny. Like, I mean, I appreciate it.
Because if
I
he
appreciate
likes
it in
it,
any sort of. I appreciate feedback from anybody, for sure. And I appreciate that sentiment. But it was funny, like even in Sky's chat the other day when I just mentioned that I'd been on Reasonable Vegans channel before. I mean, people didn't really. I felt it was a little bit of an attack that started to happen a little bit. It was very subtle and kind of very kind of in a joking way, but people just were like assuming all these things. Like they hadn't even looked at the interview, they haven't even listened to it, they haven't listened to any of the points that were brought up, and they just immediately, because there's a perception around Carson's channel, they just start to attack people about it. It's just like this is the same sort of attitude of the people that we're trying to fight against, of these assumptions, these knee-jerk reactions. Go look at the data, right? That's what we always like to say. Go look at what's being presented as arguments. Go listen to what's being said before you just attack somebody and make them feel like they've been attacked. Like, I don't know, I didn't appreciate it, and it was really not much of an attack. It's kind of done in a joking way just by a few people, but just the
Mhm.
insinuation that there's something wrong with appearing on somebody's channel that you don't agree with. You don't even know what was said. what
Right,
what
right,
kind of
exactly.
reaction?
Yeah, and when
What?
I've mentioned that I've been on a Reasonable Vegans channel twice,
Yeah,
and when I mentioned that, all the other people react to the comment, saying, "Oh, you went there? Oh, whatever. What is this? That?" I was like, "Yeah, I went
yeah.
there because I don't know. He invited me, so I was like, hey, I want to go to this thing." Like, I took the opportunity because he wanted to talk to people, and I thought, hey, here's some guy I can talk to. We have channels that are not very, they're not being too noticeable right now, and kind of at the same level or something like that. And he wants to have a talk, and I hadn't gone to anyone's channel at that point, so I thought maybe I can seize this opportunity and stuff to talk to someone. And because we have so opposing views on basically everything, so it's like it was interesting to talk to him. But here's
Yeah.
the thing with Carson that I always even tell him, like, he's trying to promote this welfarist idea as if it's some sort of, like, it should be championed or something. It shouldn't. I don't know. It's like veganism is about abolition, not about welfare. To me, the thing that's wrong is that we have these farms and these products or whatever that should not exist. I don't care if they exist better or they have a better cage or whatever. Because okay, put Wi-Fi in the bullpen, whatever. I don't care. That's terrible either way. I don't care. Like he said, I think he said something about placing cameras inside of factory farms or something like that, and or slaughterhouses or something. Like, cameras, what is that going to do? Like, that's not going to do anything. So that, I mean, I guess if they place cameras, what, who's going to be like, oh no, you're killing the animal? Yeah, that's what we do. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I really don't know what that would do. And I think they have cameras at some of those places, but then they hide most of what they actually do there. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, and Reasonable Vegan,
Oh, okay.
Carson, he asked earlier if we'd seen the discussion between Grumpy Vegan Granddad and Sky the other day. Yeah, I was there for that. I was there for that for sure. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, we saw that. Yeah. Okay, so he
Yeah.
says to me, veganism is not about welfare. Welfare is a separate good thing. Oh
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
That's the other
that's
Carson.
that's that's true.
That's the
That's
other
true.
Carson thing, right? Like, he says, well, I can be at this thing and this thing at the same time. And like, I don't know, because here's the thing: if you're a welfarist, you're going against the vegan aspect. So if you're a vegan and you're a welfarist, you're colliding with yourself. I don't know.
I mean, I would certainly say that if like we were talking a lot about the history earlier and all that stuff. I mean, Leslie Cross. I mean, not that these people are the end all be all of how the movement may have progressed over the years, but
No,
he
exactly.
certainly said that it is not so much about welfare as about abolition, because we're trying
Yeah,
to defeat the paradigm of master and slave, not only for
exactly.
the benefit of the slave, but for the greater benefits of the masters and their
Yeah, that's
psychological
also something
states.
that was said that what confused me a little bit, because they did say something about that the worst, something about the along the lines of, like, the worst effects of this slave master thing go to the master and not the slave. And I was like, yeah, I bet the slaves don't feel that way too much. I don't know, but it could be. It's a double-edged sword in the sense that it damage. I mean, it causes damage to everyone, the slave and also the master, because it has these ramifications on your mental health, on your overall health, and all that. So it, like the master is also like a victim of this thing, of this,
Yes.
like the consumer, like for example, the consumers of animal products are also victims of the meat industries and the dairy industries, and
Yeah.
the
Not. Yeah.
workers
Not.
are victims too. They are victims too. Yes, they are performing the action and they're getting paid for it, who knows, like pennies or something. And they're put into these horrible conditions. Most of them are like immigrant workers or something with little to no choice but to do whatever they put them to do. And they're victims of this thing and they end up being psychologically damaged from this thing as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, this the consumer is also a victim
Yes.
while being also while promoting and basically funding this thing that's attacking them. It's like the cigarette thing. Like the consumer is the victim of this horrible thing that is like the cigarettes and stuff, and they're paying for it willingly because they're being told, "Oh, look at this amazing product and whatever," and that's what they're seeing. They're saying, "Oh, I enjoy this thing, so I'm paying for it." But it goes to against my well-being, whatever. So it's like we're all victims of this thing.
Yes.
So it's weird. It's like a, I don't know. So there might be something to that, but the welfare thing, I don't know. I don't. I'm not convinced that welfareism is a separate good thing. To me, I call it like a. It's a bad thing. I'm sorry. I don't see it as a good thing even if we see it outside of veganism. I'm not seeing the good part because I asked this to a follower of Carson, uh, this about this octopus farm in Spain that they're
Oh
going
man,
to.
that's
So this octopus farm is, I think, it's not yet in operation, and they were doing a petition to not have it put in place.
yeah. I signed that.
So my question to this person was, would you sign a petition if there were two petitions? Would you sign one that says no, do not open this farm, or one that says give the octopus the best treatment ever in the best treatment possible in the farm? Like, if you sign the one of the best treatment, you're working against the octopus because you're objectifying the octopus. They're going to make the farm anyway. It's horrible. I don't see how this welfareism is a good thing. We need the abolition, and everyone on the same mind that animals are not items for us to use and consume and whatnot. So the welfareism still views the animal as a thing. But Carson can't be a fully abolition guy because he said, unless he's changed his mind on this, but he said that he hasn't seen like conclusive evidence that you can make everyone in the world not consume animals and be healthy. So that's why he can't put
Um,
into law that no, let's ban all the farms, animal farms, all the slaughterhouses, all that, because no, there's no way to know that all humans can do this thing. So, and it's like, I don't know. To me, that seems. I think it's very well documented that yeah, we can live without consuming animals. He says we can't. So I don't know what he has to say about the octopus farm and about this other thing.
I mean, I would say what he's saying is it might be factual. That is factual that we do not have data in regards to every particular situation that might arise in someone's biology or whatever, metabolism. Somebody might need some sort of product, whether that can be synthesized or provided some other way. This is where, if we can get away from using animals to do the lab grown meat and somehow have it be just through fermentation or these other means, or getting the fluids to keep these cells cultures alive without utilizing any sort of animals at all, there might be a place for people to do that. But I would hesitate to say that that just gives people license to eat as much as they want. Maybe it needs to be prescribed as a prescription by a doctor, and a minimal amount may be made available for these people. There's ways around that. Like that may be the case. We don't have data on that. That's just a fact. And even anybody who claims that the vegan diet is the healthiest diet is not dealing with facts. That has not been proven that it's the healthiest diet because there's so many permutations of the vegan diet. To say the vegan diet is the healthiest doesn't even make any sense. It's like I think that according to health outcomes, the diet that kind of still holds that crown is one that has a limited amount of, say, some sort of a fatty fish or fatty animal product, according to the data that's been collected to date. Whatever. We got to be factual. There's no need to lie or, put forth all these ideas that aren't proven yet. Just rely on the ethics and the morality of it. Try to assuage people's fears around their health or whatever, and give people, a little bit of a litmus. Like, hey, I might be one of those people that need a little bit of animal product. Okay, let's get that diagnosed. Let's see what other ways we can do that. Make it so that they are included within it, as opposed to being this antithesis to it. You know what I mean? Like they're the enemy or whatever. It's like they have fears. How do you get somebody over their fears? You educate them. You make allowances for it, but not at the expense of someone else's rights. I don't care if they're. Why would I think a human right is of more benefit to the human than a cow's right to its life is of benefit to it? We can say, well, according to my perception, the cow's life isn't, but well, that's easy for you to say. You're not the cow. And whether they can even realize it, they certainly have behaviors that seem to indicate that they value their lives, at least on a biological level. They try
Right,
to
exactly.
escape fear. They remember things. They remember things that are dangerous. They remember people who they don't like. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know, I'm just not into bashing people anymore. You know what I mean? When I first got involved in YouTube, I kind of started to feel this way and like, oh, let's make fun of these people or say he's not this or that, not that. And it's like, there's no utility in it. It'll become apparent when it comes time for Carson to make a stand on something, and then all the vegans can point their fingers if they want and just unsubscribe from his channel. I mean, what's the big deal? Why do you want to spend any energy, kind of attacking all these people? It's like whatever.
Okay.
It's good for him. He's doing what he feels is right. If he's lying or not, I have no idea. It's hard for me to say.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that too. Well, I mean, I do get your point that probably if, instead of like, trying to make fun of someone or trying to, criticize everyone, trying to do the thing, trying to bring awareness to these issues, I get it. Like, it could be detrimental also. But part of this is also, I guess, in part, it's like the entertainment value. Like, for example, Vegan Games, he's just like an entertainer, really. He's doing the activism and stuff, but he just does some funny reactions and stuff like that and says outrageous stuff. To me, it's on purpose. He's not some unhinged lunatic, really. When you see him actually talking to people or debating or whatever, he's just a regular guy until he starts losing his patience and then
Yeah,
starts challenging everyone to an MMA match and stuff. But
yeah,
but he's really just a regular dude. But he's doing
yeah.
his comedy bit, reacting to these things and making jokes and stuff. It's just a character that he plays mostly, so that's just what it is. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's a
this
shtick.
Jokic, let me
Hey,
see.
let me answer one question that I saw in the chat as well. I think it was by somebody was
Right.
asking about what's the difference between the fatty fish and like algal oils or whatever. I'm not saying that there is any difference. All I'm saying is that the data that has been collected so far indicates that the healthiest diets for all health outcomes are not ones that are exclusory of animal products. I'm not sure what the reasons why those are. I'm not sure the studies bring that to light at all. But I'm just saying there's no data for it, and thereby claiming it is not factual. I believe that we should be educating people with facts, not hopes.
I mean
The hopes is where the
yeah,
scope,
right.
hope is where the scope of veganism comes into it. Some people, I mentioned this before in someone's stream, I like powerful, passionate rhetoric. I don't necessarily am moved so much by data and these things because I understand the limitations of data. I understand the limitations of studies. But to appeal to somebody's emotions, which is often demonized as a lever, this has a long history of being a very effective way of getting people to come to your cause by using passionate rhetoric. It doesn't have to be anything about facts or whatever. It's about appealing to the emotions. Why would we want to distance ourselves from that? I love the powerful rhetoric. I'm more attracted to it. I find it very poetic. I find it very intriguing. It makes my mind work more than, oh, there was 10,000 people who had this amount of LDL cholesterol in their blood after eating this and that. I'm like, sure, that's kind of interesting in a way. I'm appreciative of the mechanisms. But I'm
Oh,
much more
Carson is
moved.
leaving. Let me see. If you update my paper. All right. All right, Carson. Have a good one.
Right on, man. It'll be interesting to see your interaction with Sky and Grumpy Vegan Dad and how that pans out. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
That's gonna be fun. Okay, so
Yeah.
Big Jokic was asking me, dear AJ, should we inform people more about the money that is keeping animal ag afloat? Would that bring more people in if they knew our taxes being given to them? I think yes. Totally. That's the other thing, right? Even if you don't want to kill animals or abuse them or anything, you're paying for it because of the taxes and the government subsidizing these industries. So yeah, definitely we should. I think we should bring awareness to every instance in which we are contributing to this thing and trying to see the best strategy possible to eliminate that thing. Obviously, with government, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I think one of the first things Biden did was give like $1 billion in subsidies to the meat industries, something like that. So it's like, and that comes from the taxpayers. So I don't know. Take $1 billion just for you, meat industries. That was terrible. So I don't know.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So
Oh,
I don't know. And this Bernie Sanders was like saying like, oh yeah, the pigs and stuff, but let's focus on the workers and stuff. And I was like, man, I guess that could play into what you were saying. Like if we maybe see the benefit to the humans, we may end up benefiting the animals as well by trying to benefit ourselves. But then I don't know. I mean, I do care obviously more about the outcome than the reason. Like if your reason is, oh yeah, I want to liberate animals because I want to eat more peanut butter. Okay, buy all the peanut butter that you want. That's your
yeah.
reason. Awesome. But the thing is, if it helps the animals, then great. But the problem is that I mean, these are the victims of what I think is the greatest atrocity ever committed by our species. Not just for the time that this has been going on, like the amount of time, the amount of victims, and all the horrible stuff we do to them. Is everything combined. Like there's no other comparison to this thing. And while we've been talking almost 2 hours, how many animals have died in these 2 hours?
Oh man, hundreds of
They say it's
thousands.
like something along the lines of I don't know, like 50,000 for a second or something. I don't know. I don't know if it's that's the I don't know if that's the math, but the thing is that I mean, it's so to me to try to make it about or like to combine it with something else. To me, that's why it seems kind of like an insult to the animal. Like, oh, look how you're going to be healthier, person. Look how you're going to be this thing, and look how all the benefits it brings to you. And then it's like, yeah, the animals are getting massacred, and we're not like even making it about that. Then it's like it feels wrong to me. But I understand that in a like I don't know for the effectiveness of it. I understand your point that if we maybe talk about the benefits to other aspects of veganism, not just the animals, we can bring more people on board this idea. And hey, look how this would benefit all these workers that now would not be working at these slaughterhouses, would not be having these psychological horrors inflicted upon them because it's true these are horrible conditions and stuff. But then if they make this VR thing, we lose that angle as well. So I don't know. We need to be on top of it all. I think I do agree with you on that we need to be on top of all the aspects and try to attack this thing from every angle so that they cannot come up with like because that's the other aspect, right? When we talk about this thing for the animals, people then say, yeah, but it's not as healthy. So we do need to tackle the health aspect, even if we want it or not. We're gonna have to talk about
Yeah,
how it benefits you, how it benefits the environment, to the environmental conscious people, and to the health conscious people, and to everyone like that. So we do have to start. I mean, even if we want it or not, we're gonna have to attack those angles.
yeah,
But my fear with this was that if we make veganism about everything that's wrong in the world and not just the animals, then it might, like, I don't know, it's like that's where I see like the gatekeeping and the virtue signaling going crazy. When we make it about all of these issues, and then if you don't include this other issue, then you're not a vegan. That's where I see the most, that could be very harmful. Because
Yeah,
of course a vegan person is less likely to be a racist person or discriminatory in any other way. But it's like, I don't know, if we bring all of this and we make veganism this end all be all of all these ailments and all these bad things in society and in the world, and I don't know, it goes to some weird wacko places that I don't like. That's where we get the Nutribor and Dr. Abby and people talking about killing lions and stuff, because we make it about something that it's not. We make it about
yeah,
something that it's not. And I think they laid it down very clear, the vegan society with Leslie and Donna Watson and all these people, and I think they made it perfectly clear that this was about stopping man from oppressing these animals. And yeah, sure, we can talk about the benefits and stuff, but it wasn't about any other aspect. But all those aspects are not going to be forgotten. It's not like we're going to be like, oh, we save the animals, be as racist as you want. That's not going to happen. That's terrible. Obviously not. In a vegan world, I don't think there would be too much of racism or anything like that. Of course, there can be vegans who are kind of, not as empathetic on other aspects of their lives. That could happen.
sure.
But depending on how they are, I don't know. This vegan thing is so, it's being made so complicated because everyone's coming at it from a different angle. And so when people say, oh, I'm an ex-vegan, when you really, what they really meant was, I was doing some carrot juice with kale and I didn't like it and I stopped. So I don't know. I don't think carrot juice is veganism, but I don't
Yeah.
know. So what did you think
I
of
mean,
that aspect, like the aspect of now not looking at vegan activists including something else, but other activists trying to include veganism in that and making it about all these other things as well. What's your position on that aspect?
I mean, as long as those activists are actually taking on board what veganism is about and actually making the mental paradigm change and the psychology, real for themselves, I have no problem with other activist groups. If they're standing for women's rights or colored people's rights or immigrants' rights or whatever you want to say. I have no idea. I have no problem with them taking on veganism as a justice movement because it's all interlinked, to a certain degree. It's all talking about mindset. It's all talking about the way that we formulate our opinions and our paradigms. So to attack those in any way possible, I think is fine. Whether they want to actually activate for or be an activist for that, that's up to them. Just like it's up to us. Like Carson may say, for instance, to bring him back into the conversation, like, hey, maybe I spend part of my time talking about these other things. It doesn't mean I'm any way downplaying the importance of veganism, but these other things are of interest to me, so I'm going to add them into what limited time I have. I don't have any problem with that. Anything that gets people thinking and people's minds turning over. So I often relate things to martial arts techniques and experiences because that's what I've done for many years.
All right.
When it comes time for something to happen in a situation, whether you want to call it a conflict or whatever, I'm not particular about what technique I apply to have my ends met. I protect myself, I protect my loved ones, I protect, if I'm protecting somebody who's being abused or assaulted, I'm not particular about what technique comes from my repertoire. I apply the technique that my body wants to naturally apply at that moment. I don't take time to think about it because then that opportunity has passed. The damages have been done. If you step back in a boxing match to think about the techniques that you're going to apply because you want to apply the right one, guess what? You just got punched and knocked out.
Yeah.
You have to
Right.
train yourself in all aspects of the fighting that you're involved going to be, that you envision yourself being involved in. You have to develop those techniques to whatever degree you can, and then you let them arise naturally due to the feeling that is happening in that moment. I'm against this mindset of like I have to have my advocacy be this particular way, and if these other people don't relate with it, well, to hell with them. Is what good is that doing to the animals? What good is coming from that? If I can say to somebody, "Hey, veganism is this ethical stance against the exploitation and commodification of other sentient beings and start at that point. I would
Right.
always say to start there. Start at the thing that you want people to adopt that encompasses the most of the thing we're trying to fight. Start there, but don't limit yourself. You got to stay with your interlocutor. You have to move with them and see where they're going with it and attack those concerns directly. And then you can always bring it back once that's been mitigated. I would never say not to do that, but I also would never say not to bring up environmental issues. I would not say to bring up the exploitation of human animals in that regard. I would never do that. It just
Right.
doesn't make any sense to my martial artist mind. Like, why would I limit my repertoire when I have the results firmly in mind?
Right. Exactly. That's the other thing, right? Because it also happens, right? In veganism, it happens that, for example, some vegan speaks about something else or shows interest in something other than just veganism and animal rights or whatever, and they get panned. They get critically, destroyed just because, oh no, I tried to talk about this other thing, or I want to do this other activity, or where even the vegan camp out is getting a tons of hate from the vegans, and it's like that's kind of dumb. Like, I mean, sure, the vegan camp out is just some funny thing to clear your mind from this thing. The burnout is real; it's a real thing, and we need to keep our health in check, our mental health and our physical health as well. So I don't know, when David Rams did this announcement way back, he had this video announcement, and he said like, "Well, I'm going to be." The problem is he framed it as, "Hey, I'm not going to be a vegan YouTuber anymore. I'm going to be this, but also I'm going to talk about these other things that I like and stuff." And then that vegan teacher was the first to jump out at him and say, "No, what is this? And you're doing this and that." And like, I took it to mean like, okay, sure, I have other interests that I want to talk about X topic, and why not? I don't see what's wrong with that, really. I mean,
Yeah,
if you have other interests outside of veganism, we all do. I mean, we're not just vegan. I mean, we're vegans obviously the whole time, but we're not in activist mode 24/7, 35 days a year, all the time. And if, oh no, like if I'm not talking about this thing, I'm gonna die or something. Like, that's not gonna happen. So we do need to, lay back a little, go to what we enjoy something. And even if we want to talk about other social issues, we can, of course. That's not a problem. I don't see what's the conflict there. But the
yeah,
problem means that so when he did this, it's like no one liked the announcement or something. It's like that's ridiculous. Like, I mean, he's not
yeah,
going to have other interests. Of course he does. Like, we all do. We all have other interests. And I don't know. Some don't. Some people go vegan and then they lose interest in almost everything. One thing that happened to me is that I'm huge. I'm hugely into sports,
hmm,
and I kind of stopped following sports all that much because
ah,
when I went vegan, I was like, nothing mattered to me anymore. Like, oh, my favorite team lost, whatever. These pigs are getting slaughtered by the second, so it doesn't matter if my team got slaughtered in the field because these actual animals are being slaughtered. So to me, I went through a period where I wasn't really into any of that. I was like, no, but I do have other interests. I do follow like sports or some other thing. I know those things aren't really important to life, but they're important to your mental health. Like, you want to have some
yes,
sort of enjoyment.
yeah,
Sure, life is horrible for most living creatures, I don't know, but even humans, but that can't stop you from trying to enjoy whatever you can, because we only have this life that we know of. We don't know what's beyond this existence or whatever, if there's anything after this or not, and we have to make the best of it. So
yeah.
yeah, horrible things are happening, but if we can enjoy something, why not? I don't see what's the problem. And then you have vegans telling you that you can't enjoy anything, and that's
Yeah,
where I
like
see the
animals,
gatekeeping, and that's where I see the virtue signaling and all these things that you wanted
yeah,
to bring up as well. So this
like,
aspect of, no, 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 you're enjoying yourself. You're going to
yeah,
a movie. You're going to some sporting event, wherever. Man alive, like, sure, like we want cows and pigs to be happy and free, and we don't want ourselves to be these things. Doesn't make sense. I don't know. like we also want to be happy and stuff. So I don't know. It
Yeah.
seems weird. It
Like
seems
animals are
weird.
here
The ages.
with us, not for us. They're bringing up if you lose your interest, you will be unhealthy. This is correct.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. So what good would that do for a activist to get totally burned out by just focusing on that and not doing the other things that he finds enjoyable or stress relieving? Like, how is that a long-term benefit? We're here for the long haul. We got to stay with it. We can't be one of those vegans who gets burned out and then falls off and turns into a pygmy vegan or just totally changes from being a vegan to someone else because they're like, I can't handle it. There's nothing wrong with pursuing other interests. And I have an intense dislike of people who say things like, well, I don't get burned out on it, so why do you, or how can you do? Like, why?
Oh.
I don't, we're not talking about you. We're talking about the other person, right? Like, why that's violent communication. You're saying that there's something wrong with the other person because it doesn't happen to you. Well, you're questioning that it's happening to the other person. Like, you don't believe them, or there's
Right.
somehow, like, why would you even say that? Like, okay, I don't care if it happens to you or not. Great. You do your activism. Great. You can do it 24/7, 365 a year or whatever. You do that. But to come at me and say, well, how question that I can't because I need a break and to somehow denigrate me? Once again, what's the utility of that? Do you
Right.
feel that
Exactly.
shaming that person is going to have them do more and become mentally unstable? Like, is that what you want to do? Is that what veganism has become about?
No.
Forcing
Exactly.
vegan
Yeah.
activists? Like what? It's I don't get it. So yeah, I'm on the same page as you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the thing. And one can say easily say like, "Oh, I don't get burnout." Yeah, but for example, take my example. All I do is these silly YouTube videos where I do some questions or whatever that or
Yeah.
some vegan realm or whatever silly thing. And I'm not going to vigils. I haven't been to any vigil. I haven't been to any farm or slaughterhouse to see these things happening in front of me. I haven't done any of that. I haven't done the street outreach or anything like that. So of course I can say, I don't get burned out. How can I if all I do is be in my room and record myself saying dumb things for the camera and and
Yeah.
things like that just for entertainment. I mean, I try to bring the vegan message while being entertaining or something, and I try to entertain myself precisely for that because I
Yeah.
say I need to laugh, otherwise this thing will just get too much. So I need to make it as entertaining as I can. So I try to make myself laugh, and if someone else finds it entertaining, then that's great. So that's my angle. But of course, like it's easy to say, oh, I don't get burnout. Yeah, but you're not going to vegans or anything. You're just posting on your social media. You're not
Yeah.
feeling this heavy thing like face to face. You're not facing it this way probably, and if you are, you haven't done it for such a long time that it gets to you. This burnout thing is completely real.
Oh
Sometimes I
yeah.
even make videos when I don't want to. I'm like, man, today I'm not feeling it, but I need to upload something. This is for the animals and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so I'm powering through. I'm doing this thing even if I don't feel like it. I just pretend that I do, and that's
Yeah.
it. But
That's right.
uh,
That's why I really appreciate channels like yours and like Skies and some other ones. Carnism is Cancer, for instance. Like there's still a message contained within it, but it's like it's relieving. It's funny. I laugh so hard some of the times watching Skies antics and the things that he talks about and presents. It's just so it's awesome that it's a
right,
channel for vegans and we can laugh about that. That's very important for our mental health, and you provide the same sort of a service to the vegan community, right?
right,
Like
exactly.
I disparage sometimes that kind of content as popcorn content because it's entertaining for vegans, but it still contains a bit of a message in it, right? Like you challenge carnies on that, and you're answering actual questions that carnists or omnivores, however you want to couch
Yeah,
that term, they may
anyone can
actually bring
answer.
up and
Yeah,
have.
correct.
Yeah, that's all fine and well. Yeah, I think it's great.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
because what I do
yeah,
with the Dear AJ is what I did was okay. Uh, Try to talk or bring up topics that I wanted to talk about, but in like a fun way, so I can better communicate these things. Because just filming myself and talking about these things, I didn't feel really, it wasn't feeling too natural to me. So I came up
yeah.
with this format, and I already have like a format that is easy to follow. Or like, oh, let's see these questions. This person from Minnesota or something is asking me this. Sometimes they're actual questions that they've asked me. Sometimes it's just people on the street asking me, or coworkers or something. I just use that, and I just make up. I don't know. The other day there was this question from Lisa from Temecula, and Lisa from
Uh-huh.
Temecula is a character on Saturday Night Live. Obviously, probably no one caught the reference because most people don't even watch that show, but I
Yeah.
do. So I took the Lisa from Temecula character where I was, oh, it's a funny name from a funny place. So I was like, yeah, yeah. So, but the questions are real. The questions and comments are questions that people do ask, and they have told me certain things, and I take them and I make them into these questions. So it's like it's a real thing, but
Yeah.
with there's like a reality to it, but also the fictional part of it, you know. And the vegan realm, of course, none of
Yeah.
that happens. But it would be awesome if
Right.
actually some guy called a pizza place, hey, I want this veggie pizza, and the pizza place goes crazy and they all go vegan. That would be amazing, but it
Yeah, I
doesn't
thought that would
happen.
be a funny. That'd be a funny skit. I was imagining that when I was listening to it. Like I could see that happening, like as a skit that somebody puts on, like answers the phone, and they all start, like you're saying, like doing backflips in the background. Like it's this kind of
Yeah,
this
doing
trope.
backflips. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what? No cheese?
Yeah.
What is this? Like,
Yeah. Well,
well, it
no
happened to
cheese. You're
me.
crazy.
It happened to me at a Venezuelan restaurant. No one did any backflips, but we have this traditional food. It's kind of like a Venezuelan hamburgers of sorts, and the thing is, the feeling is like it could be anything, but mostly animals and stuff. So there
Yeah.
was this one that it contained like uh, yeah, meat and cheese, and also black beans and avocado. So
Hmm.
I said to the lady, "Hey, bring me this one, but without the meat and the cheese." And I swear to you, she looked at me like she wanted to kill me. She was like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, no meat and no cheese? What?" Like
What?
she wanted to strangle me. Like she gave me this death stare. I was like, lady, like I don't know, avocado. No, it was black beans and plantains. Yeah, fried plantains.
Plantains, nice.
Yeah, because in Latin America we do fried plantains, like plantain wedges. You know, like
Yep.
potato wedges, but with plantains. It's the
Yep.
greatest thing
I've had
ever, I
them.
tell you. But you know,
Yeah.
you gringos don't know about it, but whatever. It's the best thing ever. So the thing
I'm
is
a
that
gringo and I know about it.
yeah, yeah, all right. So yeah, so this fried plantain thing. So it was black beans and plantain, and she was like, "What? No meat and no cheese?" She was like, "Really?" She was like, "What is this guy like? Get out of my restaurant or something." And I felt like she stared at me like I was some sort of crazy wackadoodle guy. So this thing does happen, you know. Like I think I might get a nice vegan pizza tonight. Says
Hey
vegan
man,
for Tanya.
be careful. You might have that restaurant ban vegans from coming in with those sort of antics.
All right. Oh, my battery is running low because I'm doing this thing from my
Oh,
phone.
you're on your phone. You're on your phone. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
we've been
my
talking
computer
for
is.
two hours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
we've been
been
talking
talking
for
for
two
time,
hours.
but it doesn't
Is there?
feel like 2 hours. It's really been really good, and
Oh yeah.
you know we can go out for a little while more.
Okay.
Let me
Yeah, just let me
see.
know. I'm not on any sort of time frame, but is there any question that you wanted to address in particular? We've been kind of carrying on. Is there anything we didn't address? We talked about the vegan society and environmentalism and people issues, and we talked a little bit about the tribalism, the gatekeeping, and all that sort of thing. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on in particular?
Right. Yeah. I think we've covered basically all the bases that we wanted to cover, right? And we talked about this thing. I really do appreciate uh, like this intervention and like this, yeah, like your ideas and your thoughts because seeing it on like a live chat, it goes away quickly. You chat with someone, and it's like, no, I think this, I think that, and then it gets lost in the
Yeah.
context of the thing. So talking about it, it makes more sense, like where you're coming from. And I do see your points. And yeah, I mean, of course, I'm still going to make some funny videos.
I hope
I have
so.
one, man. I have one prepared with it's gonna have reasonable vegan and humane Hancock and those guys.
Oh,
Oh
oh.
man, it's going to be funny, really. But
Oh
it's
no,
going
that
to be, yeah, yeah, yeah. One of
would you
those
would you call them the
comedy.
three horsemen? Or you called them like the three horsemen of the apocalypse or something the other day in a live chat? Those guys,
I call them
Hancock and
yeah, the four horsemen of anti-vegan veganism.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
was reasonable, cranky, humane, and unnatural vegan. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean those are the four that I know. but I
yeah.
don't know, for some reason Sky likes a cranky vegan. I don't know. Maybe they're friends or something. I don't know.
I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind Cranky Vegan. I've learned some things that I wouldn't have learned from other channels. Whether I like his approach personally or his personality or whatever, I don't. I'm not so concerned about that. I'm concerned about the content that he brings that makes other vegan positions more powerful. To think that somebody's channel is useless or whatever, you're not going to tune into it at all.
No, I
I
mean,
don't know. I think that's a
I
little
won't say
myopic, but
useless because everyone that does vegan content is not useless. You're bringing awareness to veganism in one way or the other. Now, whether I agree with the ideas or some of the things, that's a different topic, right? Because of
yeah,
course we
yeah,
as humans are not going to agree 100% with everyone. But
yeah,
my problem with the cranky is that he's basically just saying like, oh no, this activism thing doesn't work and stuff. And he didn't really have the like debug your brain made a similar video where he demonstrated the opposite was true. So
yeah.
it was kind of a weird, I don't know. But anyway, everyone's doing their thing or whatever. Sometimes I just try to do some funny reaction or something. But yeah, cranky. The problem is that, oh, I know. My problem with cranky is came to be because I found his channel from a video about uh, Alex O'Connor. So to me, that's like when I see a channel that's like defending Alex O'Connor, I'm like, no, this channel, I don't like it. And when I see them attacking Alex O'Connor, I'm like, yeah, this guy's my friend. So that's why I came
Oh,
to know Sky. I was like,
yeah,
oh, Sky, yeah, this guy's awesome. And no Injustice lasts forever. And these guys, even though Injustice, Neil, I already knew his channel from way before the Alex thing.
yeah.
And I like his channel, but the thing is, like, I don't know, it's funny. Like, so to me, it's like, oh, this channel is like defending this guy too much. No, I don't like them.
Only a little bit of bias showing there, AJ. Only a little bit of bias.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like a weird bias to have. Like, oh, this channel
Yeah,
defended Alex O'Connor, so I don't like them, and this one
yeah,
attacked him, so I like this one. It's kind of weird, but
yeah,
but
yeah. Whatever, you know.
but I don't know. Like for example, Christina Van Beek did a video on Alex. She wasn't too like she wasn't attacking him or anything. It's more
Yeah,
like asking him to be, like, hey, come to terms with this thing. How can we, like it was more of a like a helpful take or something, I guess. Not really attacking him, but really showing that hey, what you're doing is not right. At
yeah,
least that was the hey, you're not doing this right thing. Think better and do better and stuff. Which okay, I agree with that. But then there's
mhm.
other ones that are just like, oh no, like you're trying to tell him that he's wonderful. No, I'm not gonna have that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So no. So also
I mean, that's
Cranky,
kind of.
yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing. Cranky did a video where he was like, "Who's worse for veganism, Alex O'Connor or that vegan teacher?" And I was like, "Bloody hell! If you're
mm,
telling me that you think that vegan teacher, who's an actual vegan, is worse for veganism than Alex O'Connor, that's a hard sell. I don't know. I don't know how you're gonna sell that. I don't know. Maybe
that's a that's a
to
loaded
the
question.
middle ground crowd, but to me, no.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. You know, I mean, you have this dichotomy between that vegan teacher and Alex O'Connor. Like, oh my God, come on! There's a plethora of vegan, approaches way in between those two. But
Right,
I
right,
mean,
right, right.
I
And to
would
me,
never
it's kind of
congratulate.
that also doesn't help, right? Like, oh, who's
Yeah,
worse, this one or that one? And I was like, okay, but who's worse? That vegan teacher, first of all, she doesn't pay for animal abuse, as far as we know, because
yeah,
as you said, we can only go by our word of mouth. We don't really know. I don't can't go to your fridge and oh no, you bought this I don't know beef burrito from Taco or something. I don't know. So
yeah,
that's not a thing. So we're not policing each other or anything. So
yeah,
we only can go only by our word. But obviously there are certain things that certain vegans say that make them sound not really all that vegan. Maybe they're unaware of what they're saying. Maybe I don't know. So as you say,
yeah,
maybe it's the an educational angle might be better than just berating them or something because they're not doing this perfect thing that we want them to do or something.
yeah,
But going bonkers on your channel, that's the thing. That's the danger with social media is that if you become this character, even if you're like some wacko or whatever, you're gonna get more
yeah,
attention and more attention
yeah.
means more subscribers, more views, and more revenue and stuff. So that's the danger of the social media and this veganism thing. That if you make it about that part, you're also forgetting that what the mission actually is. So
Yeah,
I don't
it's like
know.
you get trapped by your own ego gratification. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. I'm not gonna lie. I do get sad sometimes when I see like the numbers on the views on some videos. I'm like, wow, no, this video didn't get as many views, and that one didn't get attention, or this one did, and that one. like it can be a trap, and that's not
Yeah,
what veganism is. Veganism is completely, I mean, like this social media thing, that's not the I don't know, it's weird. It's like a tool that we can use, but it's not something that we need to be concerned with our, celebrity status or whatever. I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
concur. Yeah,
That's a
yeah, I
danger. That's
agree.
a danger there, because then you start doing single or saying things just because this will bring you more people to your channel, and we can all fall into that trap. It can happen
Oh
to
yeah,
everyone. So
yeah, for
we
sure.
try. So yeah, that's another thing. Not lose sight of what we're really doing this with this thing. But yeah, let me see. I think she helps in a way. Yeah, that vegan teacher is cool. I mean, I
Yeah,
like
I
her
like her
like
content. She's cool.
songs and stuff. But I find that her
Yeah,
content is more like childish and stuff. Like
yeah, yeah,
it's a weird combination of childish, but she says some really strong words that I'm like, hey, no kid should be listening to this thing. Like, she's
yeah,
like really, when she starts berating people, she really goes in hard, and she says some stuff that are really like, no kid should be, I don't know, like, doesn't seem very kid friendly, some of it. So
yeah,
it's kind of weird, a weird match between this kid friendly content, and then this, sometimes she says these words that are kind of adult. So I'm like,
yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
don't know. So it's
I
kind of
often
a
find
weird
I
combination. But yeah,
she
but I
is.
like her. I think she's kind of cool. I don't watch much of it because it's mostly like for kids and stuff. It's like, oh, the teacher with like the lessons and stuff, and the some songs, and but I like the songs. They're catchy.
Yeah, I often find myself thinking about those songs or kind of humming them. For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
I
they're
think her songs are
catchy.
really
Like,
cool.
go for yourself, go for yourself, go. I like it. Go
Don't
for
buy
yourself.
milk from a cow. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, yeah.
Right, right.
The
So
vegan teachers
they're
show you how.
exactly, yeah, exactly. She's really fun. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, yeah, my phone does appear to be dying as we speak. So
All right.
we can have, well, it's like 5 minutes more just to conclude. I think it's
All
been a
right.
nice session. It's been really great. Thank you really for being here. I appreciate
Oh
it.
yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah,
And
thanks for inviting me. I mean, I'm always willing to run my mouth, and people want to hear anything I have to say. I think it's great.
right, exactly. No, I think it's been great. And right, right, yeah, it's a really good. Yeah, you've given some good thoughts for people to something to think about. Really, I think it's been
I mean
great.
that's my goal. Whether you agree with me or not, I don't care. But that you take the a moment to consider these things in introspection that's honest from your heart and from your intellect. That's my goal, is just to make you think.
All right, yeah. Corbett Moon says, yeah, vegan live streams are my favorite content. They might be the best ones because they're the most real ones. All the other
Yeah.
recorded stuff is just some show or something, mostly. Like, that's the thing. Like, no one really knows our personalities. They mostly just know the character that we play on the screen. But like
Yep.
I said, like Richard, like the other Richard, the
Mhm.
vegan
Vegan
game.
gains. Yep.
I mean, that's just a character. He's not someone he's lunatic. Like, he's just a regular guy. And all the other guys, they're just regular people as well. They're not someone crazy guy or something. But we
Yeah.
play these characters because I don't know, it's fun to do. I don't know. If I just said like, okay, this is veganism, goodbye. That's not content.
No, it's not very
So
engaging.
exactly. So I have to do this weird. Dear AJ, what do you think about this? Ah, God.
Yeah, yeah. You found your shtick, and it makes you happy, and it's an honest message from your heart. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
that's great.
Hey, vegan for kindness. By the way, have you heard from my friend Marlene? Are you guys doing the live stream or something? Because I know she was at some gathering or something. So, oh, this is veganism. Goodbye. What's my next video?
The next video. Oh
Oh,
no,
do it,
no.
please. Do like an 8-second video. Like, hey guys, this is veganism. Goodbye. That's it. And then it's just like a bag of lentils or something. Like, this is veganism. Goodbye.
Oh, it's not
That
that
could be
boring.
really
Veganism
fun.
is great.
All right, awesome.
Oh, you guys are chatting today. I think at 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah, it's
Vegan
gonna be
kindness.
at. I think it's gonna be at 8 o'clock my time. It's weird because it's gonna be 8 p.m. my time, 3 a.m. her time, and then 11 a.m. Cameron's time. So it's gonna be weird. They're
Nice.
gonna be talking tomorrow, but for me it's gonna be yesterday. I don't know, it's weird, but you know,
Right on.
it's
Yeah, very
freaking
good.
weird. I don't know, it's weird. Oh man, this is really going to be, yeah, exactly 11 a.m. his time on Saturday. Man alive, it's going to be kind of crazy, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's in the future. Wow, you're like from the future, man.
exactly.
It's
Cameron,
wild.
give us the lottery number, man. Give us the
Yeah, give
Texas. Give me the Texas
yeah,
lottery number. Who won
give us the
tomorrow?
yeah. Yeah. Send us the information to become millionaires. We can help veganism.
Exactly. Man, I imagine that. Like, hey, Australians.
Yes.
By the way, yeah, he did mention something about censoring this GTA video game and stuff, like these industries and stuff. They don't censor these things, but they do censor these video games. In Australia, it's really, I don't know how he does it, because in Australia, it's so censor heavy, like video games are extremely regular as far as I know. Like there's so much cut content and stuff. It's like, how do they live? Like, I cannot live in a place where they have so much censorship, but it does happen. I don't know. And it's weird that in New Zealand, where they film Power Rangers, they can't show it because it's too violent for their
Hmm.
TV, whatever. So they film Power Rangers in New Zealand, but they can't show it in New Zealand.
Wow. That's not a
That's
super violent show. I mean, it's kind of cartoon violence in a way, but
Yeah. It's like, what, Power Rangers is
yeah,
violent?
violent,
What the
really?
heck?
Yeah, kind of. But
I mean,
I mean,
it
there's no blood.
kind of is, but it's like, what the hell? Like, it's just some silly
Hmm.
costumes and dragons and whatever.
Yeah,
Like, what the heck? Yeah, so
yeah.
like
What the
Tyrannosaurus
hell?
Rex, and I don't know. That's violent. What the heck?
Yeah.
We live in a
Never mind the
strange world.
gassing of
Yeah,
the
we
pigs
do.
and the slaughtering of the cows, and never mind all that. That's not violent. There's
Exactly.
nothing to see.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here. Yeah. Right.
Right. Exactly. Like that Faroe Island cruise ship. Like, oh no,
Oh man.
I was having my shrimp cocktail, and then I'm seeing these whales. What is this? I didn't ask for that. Yum, 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 yum. What is
Yeah.
that?
Wow. What a strange story. I thought that was just so interesting. Yeah.
Right,
Bizarre.
exactly. Yeah. I don't know. That was really, cheers for the stream. Was, I mean, yeah, I think we can
Oh, right on.
conclude. And
All
yeah,
right.
no, again, thank you. Thank you very much for coming here.
Oh, yep.
Where are you going to
My
do
pleasure.
content on your channel? Where are you, when is that going to
Well,
happen?
I finally got all my gear figured out. I had a buddy gift me some stuff, and I got a new laptop just about a week ago. So I've been figuring that out. I had another friend of mine gift me a camera and stuff, and I've just been kind of more contemplating on the approach to what I want to do. And I mean, the way that I'm going to approach it is probably going to be pretty boring for most vegans, but it's more from an educational bent.
All right.
And I have some people lined up for some interviews that are interested in veganism, and I think I'm going to call some other potential interviewees from doing talks at libraries about veganism, and it's definitely going to encompass a lot of the scope of veganism, but also, using the focus as the preliminary thing. But I'm not going to shy away from using the scope of veganism as part of my activism. But it's mainly just going to be talks online, and I might interview some restaurateurs who have gone from non-vegan to vegan restaurants. I just want to talk to them and see how that transition took place. There's a couple of people here in Seattle that have done that I'm pretty interested in talking to. So
Wow, I
we'll
like
see.
that. Yeah, that sounds really good. I'm looking
Yeah, it'll be
forward to seeing that content. Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. Really, it could
thanks.
bring in new
Oh,
perspectives and stuff, and that's always needed. Something
yeah.
something different. That's always needed. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. It's gonna be
Yeah, I
awesome.
got other ideas too, but that's where I'm going to start. All right, man. Yeah, and I really appreciate your content and thank you for having
Yeah.
me on. And
Hey, thank you.
yeah, it's really great to see people in the chat and thanks for the questions.
All right. Any final question from the audience, or any final comment over there? Love you, legends. Thank you for that, Cameron. Animals are here with it. I like this thing about highlighting these comments.
That's cool.
Look at it.
Hey, so AJ, you said you had this is the free version of StreamYard that you have?
Yeah. So
Hmm.
this one, I mean, it won't be recorded on StreamYard, but I think hopefully it will be recorded on YouTube. I think YouTube will record it, but StreamYard won't. But this is the free version. Yeah. I'm not
Hmm.
really. I'm not really sure how much of this can you do on the free version. But
Yeah.
tomorrow I have a talk with Cameron, actually. Well,
Hmm.
tomorrow for me, Sunday for him. But yeah. So
Cool.
let's see if this thing allows me to do that, because StreamYard, yeah, it should go on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. This thing is really fun. Okay, well, I think that was it for today. It was really awesome. I think this one was really informative, especially from your part. I really like knowing about these things,
Oh,
and
thank you, thank
it's
you.
been amazing. And it's really, it's from a different perspective. And yeah, it could work. It could be something to consider for in the future. So
All
okay,
right.
sure.
Well, vegan
Next.
strength, vegan strength.
Right, vegan strength. Right. Okay,
Yep.
so right, that was it for today. And remember, stop hurting animals and start turning veganese. Till next time.